Good evening, everyone. The time is 02. I'm calling this meeting to Vice President Ferguson. Could you do the invocation, please?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Father, I just give you the honor and the praise, and I thank you for keeping us well and safe. Father, I invite you into this meeting tonight, and I ask that you will bless us with your peace and your wisdom and wise counsel. I ask that you will bless the city and that you will bless this nation. I ask that you will release angels of protection over this nation and that your peace and that your justice reign during this election on tomorrow and even the days to come. And Father God, I also ask that you would continue to strengthen our neighbors who have lost loved ones. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen and amen.
Amen. Madam Clerk, could you do a roll call, please?
Councilwoman Fareed,
Here.
Councilwoman Guillaume,
Here.
Councilman Hairston,
Here.
Councilman Herring,
Here.
Councilwoman Jones,
Here.
Vice President Ferguson,
Here.
and Council President Curtis.
Here. Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Discussion. Any opposition?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to ask for a voice vote.
For a voice vote? One second. I think there was. I think we have everything. Okay. All right. Madam Clerk, voice vote, please.
Councilwoman Fareed, Councilwoman Fareed,
Yes.
Councilwoman Guillaume,
Yes.
Councilman Hairston,
Yes.
Councilman Herring,
No.
Councilwoman Jones,
Yes.
Council Vice President Ferguson,
Yes.
Council President Curtis.
Yes. Okay, thank you. The agenda is adopted. First on the agenda, are the minutes for October for the council's reading and review. They will be up for vote during the regular session, as well as the September minutes, because we didn't adopt those last month. So September minutes and October minutes will be in the a part of the regular session for voting. Now moving on to legislation. First up is ordinance 02-2025, ordinance amending chapter 149, vehicles and traffic. This was along with ordinance 03-2025, an ordinance amending section 149-221, commercial vehicle parking restrictions, was also introduced in October. Had its first reading in October, and it's coming back around because this will be up for vote in during our regular session during November. Councilman Herring, did you have anything else to add for these two?
No.
Okay. All right. Then we'll move on to new ordinance. This hasn't been given a number yet, but it's an ordinance to regulate the parking of work vehicles and prohibit the parking of commercial vehicles in residential and public areas to support community business growth while preserving traffic flow and neighborhood quality of life. Let me pull it up. go. Let's share my screen. Share. All right. Vice President Ferguson, can you see my screen?
Yeah, I mean, it's small.
Okay.
Gets better.
All right. The sponsor is Councilwoman Fareed, co-sponsored by myself, Vice President Ferguson, Councilman Jones. Councilwoman Fareed, do you want to introduce this?
Sure. And subsequently, Councilwoman Guillaume said she will also want to be a sponsor.
Yes, and Councilwoman Guillaume. Thank you. Did you
So
want
this-
to? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, this ordinance is an attempt to provide a compromise to the city on the issues related to commercial vehicles being parked in the city. We've been dealing with this issue for quite some time. And I know we've tried to discuss some compromises on previously presented ordinances, but weren't able to come to that. So that's why this new one is being presented. And what this ordinance does is make it clear what classes of vehicles would qualify as commercial vehicles and distinguishing them from another category called work vehicles. So the ordinance prohibits commercial vehicles from being parked in the city completely. It will allow work vehicles, though, which would be vans or pickup trucks, or that's what they're called, pickup trucks of light nature, which fall under the classes that are typical for like passenger cars. So while they may be used for work purposes, they don't qualify as commercial vehicles, but those vehicles would have to be parked in driveways as opposed to on the street so that they're not obstructing traffic. Additionally, though, that in conjunction with an existing ordinance for permitted parking on the streets should hopefully address the concerns that people have around the number of vehicles parked on the street, or the possibility that people will in turn put their work vehicles in the driveway, but then put, numerous cars on the street in their place. So this was, again, just an attempt to compromise and allow for certain work vehicles that our citizens make their livelihood off of versus true commercial vehicles. And those would not be allowed in the city at all. But I think, we need this work session to discuss and work through any questions or issues that anyone has with this ordinance.
Thank you. Councilwoman Jones?
Yes, Councilwoman Fareed. Has legal sufficiency been done on this?
Yes, it was sent to the attorney and he said it looks good. His only questions were around how will we enforce it? And so obviously we need to talk about making sure that that's in the code properly so that it can be enforced. But he didn't, there was no legal challenge to anything that we had in there.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Fareed.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Councilmember Herring?
Yeah. Well, I got a problem with this piece of legislation all the way around, but let me ask this question. So the city attorney only works for certain people on his council, I'm assuming. Is that correct?
No.
I'm not correct? So how is it that I sent him two pieces of legislation a month ago, and he hasn't gotten back to me yet on them, but this piece of legislation has gone through legal sufficiency already? So this is not the first time this has happened. So the attorney works for only certain people on the council, I'm assuming.
I don't know who that question is for, but I followed the process just like I think any other council member would have. I just emailed it to Mr. Karpinski and asked him to review it.
So let me ask the council clerk, did you get a reply back from Mr. Karpinski's office yet?
I didn't.
Okay, and you sent it out about a month ago, right?
It's close to it, yeah. And then
Yeah.
I followed up today as well. And
You haven't heard from him.
no.
So I'm trying to figure out why a piece of legislation that I sent a month ago is not being answered, but another piece of legislation has gone out and they gotten back legal sufficiency got an answer back on legal sufficiency for that on that. So I'm just trying to figure out how does work? Do I have to go through other council members to get my legislation accepted by the attorney or what? Because now I'm really getting PO'd with this because this is like the second or third time that Karpinski's done this to me. And I'm trying to figure out what the heck is going on.
Well, Councilman Herring, I don't know, but if you would like me to reach out, if you want me to send the legislation, that's fine. But that's not a question for me. I can't answer that question.
It is a question for you, the council president, and I have an issue as a council member with a piece of legislation that I submitted and the attorney didn't address it. So obviously he feels that he doesn't have to. So that is a question. So he's either being told not to respond to Councilman Herring and only respond to other people. So I don't know what the heck is going on. And I don't know what his idea, what the implication is, or what his idea is when it comes down to Councilman Herring submitting legislation, because this is not the first time this has happened. This is like the third time this has happened. And it seems like he doesn't respond to anything I send out there.
Well, Councilman Herring, I have no way to see when you do or do not submit things to Mr. Karpinski. Like I did not know you had something out there with Mr. Karpinski unless you tell me. So then, I mean, the only thing for me to do is you have his email address, but you say he's not responding to you, so I can reach out to him, but I have no way of knowing what you submit to him and what you do not submit to him.
Mr. President, I publicly said last week that I submitted that legislation to him. Last month, that I submitted those two pieces of legislation from him, and I was waiting to hear back from him on those. I said that publicly at the work session, you can pull the tape.
I understand that. I understand that. Am I on that email?
So you can't say you don't know when I did. The request did go out to him. And I'm trying to figure out what the heck is going on here, that every time I send out a piece of legislation, it's like I'm not going to respond back to Councilman Herring. And when he does respond back, he responds back to either you and the vice president and not to me. I am a part of this council, just like every other council member. If a council member sends out legislation that they want answer to, he should respond back to that council member and not back to the council president and vice president. Because I'm asking a question, not y'all.
I agree.
Then he cleans it up, depending on what he gets back from y'all. See, and I don't appreciate that, because if he's going to be working for certain council members, then we need to get another attorney that's going to work for the whole council. Because this is getting ridiculous. I'm waiting here a month and a half, and none of my stuff has been answered.
So, what would you like, Councilor Herring?
I want him to review my legislation and get back with me on whether it meets legal sufficiency, like every other piece of legislation that goes to him. That's not Councilman Herring's.
I understand your frustration. I can reach out to him. I'm not on those emails. So, you may have said something a month ago, but it's not my legislation, so I wouldn't be in it. But if you would like, I can reach out to him. If you can forward me the email, then I can reach out to him.
That's the only way I'm going to get a response to my question on that. So, Council Clerk, could you send the legislation to the Council President so he can send it to the attorney, because that's the way I got to go. I got to go through the council president or the council vice president to get my legislation reviewed. And I got to say, I get the rubber stamp or okay by them before I can get anything done. But other council members can submit whatever they want to submit and get an answer back in 2 days or 3 days or a week. And I haven't heard back from them in a month. So, okay, now let me move on to the legislation. I just want to know what's going on with that. And I'm telling you, I'm really getting sick and tired of this. So my whole problem with this legislation is, again, allowing commercial vehicles in the city of Glenarden. It really saddens me that this piece of legislation is coming up because it's not based on what is needed. It's based on what I said last month, and when I talk about friends and all this, who you get what you get. Because you know somebody that has a commercial vehicle, you're going to bring a piece of legislation that's going to affect the whole community. For over 50, 60 years, we've had this legislation in place for no commercial vehicles. The county has the same thing. It's to protect the value of the property, it's to protect the safety of the citizens, it's to get vehicles off the street. So I'm not understanding why, and my biggest issue is that why I have to walk out my door on properties that I own, that I paid for in the city of Glenarden, and look up and down the street and see box vans all up and down the street, because that's exactly what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. I never thought in a million years that I would see council members sit there and support something that's going to bring down the city. One thing that Glenarden had to consistently fight with is being inside the Beltway and being considered a low-income community. And it saddens me when I hear council members say, well, you know, the demographics has changed, and we used to have all we had in the city before in Glenarden was professional government workers. There's still professional workers in Glenarden. Majority of them are professional workers in Glenarden. It isn't just in one. It isn't just one section. And when they say that, they're talking about historical Glenarden. That's what it is. And I'm getting tired of people sitting here labeling historical Glenarden as low income, blue collar. Because I'm looking at this legislation, I'm like, what is the evolving demographic? I would like, so could somebody explain that to me? Because I like to know what the evolving demographic is.
The evolving demographic of more entrepreneurs in the city. And that doesn't have to do with, that does not have to do with low class or middle class or anything that way. I think for most entrepreneurs, they are in a lot of cases making ends meet. So it's not a comparison to say that people who lived in the city before were low income and now people who are entrepreneurs are like there's no comparison in that at all.
Well, actually, it is, because again, it was stated before that before they were professional government workers used to be in Glenarden. Now we got to change the rules because we got a different demographic of people in here that are business owners or working for themselves. And my thing is this: we've had people like that in Glenarden ever since Glenarden has been involved. Glenarden used to have a lot of businesses in Glenarden. They didn't bring their vehicles home. They worked outside the city, or they had a shop or something set up somewhere else. And again, once again, it stigmatizes the city of Glenarden that that you can welcome to come to Glenarden, and you can bring your commercial vehicles in here and park them anywhere else. Not only is this allowing for commercial vehicles, you're allowing people to have businesses that don't even have business permits. And I don't even understand that. So basically, you're saying park your vehicles in here, and you can run a business without a business permit. So all these people who got these vehicles, these commercial vehicles or these work vehicles, because I don't care whether you call them work vehicles or commercial vehicles, or for their business, they're commercial vehicles. You can clean it up any way you want to, because there's no difference. And if you can explain the difference between a commercial vehicle and a work vehicle, please do.
So, Council President, in this ordinance, it does list out what are considered to be commercial vehicles and what are considered to be work vehicles by class. And while you're on that same point, can you just scroll back down because you're on that same point? Commercial vehicles are completely prohibited from parking in the city, not even in driveways. They're not allowed to park. So this is a complete ban on commercial vehicles being parked in the city of Glenarden, but we're distinguishing between vans and trucks, right? So if you look up I think it might be section 1, where it talks about what's classified as a commercial vehicle. Oh no, section 2 and section 3. Right, so section 2 is class E, vehicles with a gross weight of over 10,000 pounds. And some of those vans would be considered class E. This would all be on how they're registered with the DMV, right? So it's not a subjective review by the city, but really how that vehicle is registered. If it's a class E or F or G, then those would, whatever the other classes are, those would be considered commercial.
Okay, so it says work vehicle is defined as any light duty vehicle used for business well, if it's a business, then it's a commercial business, I'm sure. It's not a nonprofit, it's a commercial business. So that's a commercial vehicle. Or professional purposes. Okay, and then that's for one individual that y'all know of. And now here we go again with this. Who you know gets what they want in the city of Glenarden, and the whole city has to suffer because of this. And I think what really bothers me about this legislation here is that this does not affect the residents in the Woodmore Town Center, because your bylaws are very, very strict on commercial vehicles. They will not allow any vehicle in Woodmore Town Center, which is what I actually should have got their language and put it in ours. They don't allow any vehicle in Woodmore Town Center to park in any driveway that has commercial lettering on it. And that's a very strict code, and that's in your residence. So you don't even have to follow this rule. It doesn't even apply to your residents, and it might not apply to some of the other HOAs if that's in their bylaws. But y'all bylaws are very strict. They're very tight, and I'm glad they did it, because that was one thing I pushed for when we worked on the Woodmore Town Center development. Because we don't want to walk out your door and see box trucks up and down the street, because it affects the value. That's why Prince George's County have parking regulations, because to protect the value of the citizens, to protect the citizens in general. So I'm not understanding this whole thing about putting a stipulation in one part of the city, and then the rest of the part of the city is basically their residents, and their main asset, which is their home, is protected by the legislation that's in there. And I support that legislation 110% in Woodmore. And if I had seen it sooner, I would have definitely mimicked that with the legislation that I bought. Because again, that's some tight legislation, and it does allow for commercial vehicles only if you put it in your garage. That's it. Other than that, you can't have any vehicles on the street or in your driveway, especially if they have, and it doesn't even say where, because it says if they have lettering on it. So any type of lettering. So anybody that lives over there can complain to the HOA board that this vehicle shouldn't be in here, and they'd have to move it out. And so, and as a matter of fact, and so since that is part of your HOA bylaws, and you live over there, have you got with your committee to discuss taking that out of your bylaws? Has that been done since we want to allow this in the whole city? Have y'all done that? Because again, right now y'all under HOA rule. HOA rules are very tight, and we can't come in there and change them. And we can't we can't uphold those rules. You got to uphold those rules through your HOA board.
Council President?
Yes.
So the HOA for the Woodmore Town Center at Glenarden is out of the jurisdiction of the city of Glenarden, and that is not a part of the consideration for this legislation for the city of Glenarden. I cannot speak to the HOA rules. I just know I live there and I follow rules. If we want to put HOA rules on the entirety of the city, then we can have the residents decide if that's something that they want to do. I think that if proper research is done, it will be clear that this is not favoring any particular one person. This is by class of vehicle. So if someone has a Class E vehicle that could be perceived as being a work vehicle because it's a truck, then it would be a mistake for that to be represented in this meeting as being the exception, because Class E is not an exception. This legislation, and I did not expect that Councilman Herring would be in agreement with it. Again, as I mentioned, the rest of the council members, or the majority of the rest of the council members, have suggested compromises to the legislation that was previously proposed, and we were not able to get anywhere because there was no concession made. So as far as I'm concerned, this legislation is a compromise. If people don't agree with it, I think they don't have to support it with their vote. But I think it's pretty clear. It states the classes that are considered commercial. It states that commercial is prohibited completely, so they can't even park in their driveway. And it states what type of vehicles can be parked in the driveway. So I'm sure there will be even residents who don't like this, because their vehicle may not fall under the description of a work vehicle and may in fact fall under the description of a commercial vehicle, and therefore would be prohibited. Thank you, Council President.
Yeah.
Ms. President, can I share my screen?
One second. I'll come back to you. There are other people with their hands up.
I'm not finished my questioning on the legislation. They can finish after I give up the floor. I'm still asking questions on this legislation.
Go
So when
ahead,
they want to
Councilman
ask,
Harris.
I mean, I'm just trying to finish my got the floor. They can
My
finish.
apologies. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
All right. Sharing's not turned on. I need to share my screen right quick.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it's on. I'm just sharing, so I just had to stop sharing.
Okay. Sorry.
Oh, hold on. Well, let me just double check. 1 second. You're right. It wasn't on anyway. So go ahead. You should be good to share now.
Okay. If this is the right one. That's not the right one. 1 sec. So go ahead and let somebody go ahead while I'm looking for this file.
Oh, okay. Vice President Ferguson?
Well, I was going to address the issue about the attorney. So I don't know whether I can wait till he finish everything. Some of the what he had mentioned.
Okay, that's fine. I saw another hand.
I mean, so you want me to wait or just go ahead and say it?
You can if you would like.
I was just gonna say, well, he's looking for something too, but I wanted to ask him a question as well. But as far as getting information from Kapinski on what he sends, I just want to make publicly known that I do not know what type of legislation you're bringing forth, Councilman Herring, until you bring it forth. I do not get any of your emails sent to me or from Kapinski. Also, I was wondering, when you send your emails, do you include Brenda, his assistant, on there?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I've had to wait too, but I do agree with you. No one should have to wait, because he, serves at the pleasure of all of us. So, and I do believe that, I don't think that you should have to send your emails to either one of us so that you can get it done. So excuse me. Again, I don't get the emails. I don't know, for him to confer with me. And
Right.
the other thing I wanted to say too was that in this legislation, I'll let you finish up with that, and then I can come back over. You made some comments about knowing people who have vehicles. I don't. Go ahead.
But I wasn't saying that you knew about it. I'm just saying that he only honors requests from certain council members. And I'm not saying you knew, because I didn't know. I didn't email it to anybody. I emailed it directly to him.
Okay, because I know you said that he sent them to both me and the president and the vice president, and I don't get them. I know about your legislation, like I said, and I don't think that that's proper. And you should not have to wait. All of us should equally be. I had to wait also, but I did hear you say that you had been waiting. Although the only thing is that I did not realize that you were still waiting, even to date. And so, I wouldn't have a problem speaking to him about that as well, because he should be responding equally. But go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Council President.
Did Councilwoman Guillaume?
No, she put her hand down. Councilwoman Guillaume, did you have another statement?
I can wait till Councilman Herring is done. It's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilman Herring, you have the floor.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say again, like I said, I just put up the covenant for the Wilmore Town Center development, and I wish they had the other covenants for the other HOAs, because they're probably just as strong. And like I said again, the HOAs follow under their own guidelines, their own rules, and their own regulations, because they consider a private property. So again, you can't even have a vehicle in the HOA that has lettering on it, commercial lettering on it, on any vehicle. You can't even have it in your driveway. And I'm just saying, why is it that, again, and that's the way to protect the value of your homes and the integrity of your neighborhood, because one thing nobody want to see is big old box trucks sitting in driveways riding all through the neighborhood. And I'm not understanding why that's something that we should be allowing over in our neighborhood, and it definitely should not even be allowed in your neighborhood, especially with these covenants sitting here, and it's done to protect people's property. And so again, I don't agree with this piece of legislation. The wording, whether it's work truck or business truck, they're still commercial vehicles. It's still a commercial vehicle. It's doing commercial business, and and the only difference is it's under a certain weight class. My weight class is even less than that. You know, mine was 6,000 pounds. And no, I didn't agree with it because, again, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't agree with it because I live in Glenarden. I've lived in Glenarden for 60 years. My parents and them bought their house in 1960. I know there's a number of people who've been here 30, 40, 50, 60 years. They put laws in place to protect the integrity of Glenarden. They put laws in place to make sure the quality of life for them, for every citizen was put out there so that they can have a comfortable living in the city of Glenarden, that they can get in and out of their driveway, they can get through their streets. And they put them in there to protect the value of their homes that they purchased and they spent all this money on. They did not put them in there. They did not put commercial vehicles in there because they don't want to see Glenarden turn into a commercial district. And I think the one thing that really gets me, again, is that there are, you're basically opening up the driveways in Glenarden to be rented out. Because again, there's apps out there. I mean, there's companies out there that basically rent out space and rent out space for your driveway. You can rent your driveway out to cars and trucks, and there's a couple of websites out there that do that. And I'm just not understanding why we're going to open ourselves up to that when it's just going to be another problem, and you're not going to, and it's not going to be addressed. It seems like whatever happens over in this ward, which is really starting to bother me, is that when it happened in historical Glenarden, it's like it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to because people over here are I don't know what y'all think. I'm not understanding what y'all think about historical Glenarden. You say you love the city, but yeah, you're going to put a law in place that's going to basically destroy it by bringing in a box commercial vehicles, because they are commercial vehicles. I don't care what you say. You can call it a work vehicle all you want to, and you're also circumventing the law by saying you can bring your work vehicle here and have a business vehicle here and not have to pay a business license. We had an issue down on Delwood where somebody was running a business. They had 4 or 5 trucks at the bottom of Delwood in a circle. They would leave the trucks parked there all night long. The people would come in, pick up their trucks, park their personal cars down there, and take the trucks out of the city, go do their jobs, and then they come back. And those trucks sat there all the time, and people were tired of it. And I'm not understanding. See, that's what I'm saying when you don't really know the character of a city. And I'm going to tell you honestly, that's exactly why I voted against the charter resolution, because they had all at large in there. If you look at this legislation, it's sponsored by 4 at large and 1 Ward 3 council person. And if now you look at it, it's also sponsored by all at large and the majority Ward 3. And that's a problem for me. And that's why I voted against the at-large system, because I think you should have people representing the ward that knows what's going on in their ward, because you don't know. And like I said, and I heard the conversations back and forth about the gentleman who works for Washington Gas and he got to take his van home and da-da-da-da-da-da-da and all this other stuff. And I don't think it's right. I don't think it's fair. I think, like I say, too many elected officials, too many council members and mayors built this city up to what it is, made it as pristine as they wanted, as they got it. And we want to keep it that way. And to sit there and start allowing people to put commercial vehicles in here, opening up this city to be able to rent your driveway out through a number of through the companies Space It and Neighborhood, which is two companies that actually allow you to rent your driveway out. You can make some extra money that way. I think it's unfair to the citizens that live here, the citizens that built this community up, and the citizens that want to move here. It isn't right. It isn't fair, and I can totally disagree with this legislation. And I'm really surprised that certain council members are actually supporting this type of legislation. I really am. I really am. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Jones.
Good evening to the citizens of City of Glenarden. I could really say that I'm a Ward 1 resident because most of the time I spend most of my time in Ward 1 now because my family lives in Ward 1 and I have an elderly mother that requires attention. So the question I'd like to ask the code enforcer if he's on here, because I haven't seen it. I have seen the Delwood Avenue issue. In fact, I was down there last night because I left so late. It was around 11:30, quarter to 12. There's still 3 trucks parked. I'm not sure if they even have lettering on them, but in that driveway, there are three trucks parked piggyback behind each other. So maybe the code enforcer might need to knock on the door and ask that resident just exactly what they got going on down there. But I would like to ask the code enforcer, how many box trucks have we ticketed or has code enforcement seen, let's say in the last year? Because I know you have stats on what you do and what you don't do. If you have an answer to that question right now, or if not, would you get that information to the council? I'd like to know because I've seen a lot of, in Ward 1, there are vans parked, there are pickup trucks parked, but I don't see anything, box trucks or commercial vehicle, anything with lettering on it parked in the city of Glenarden. And then with this legislation, we're also going to have to deal with enforcement if we're going to enforce this, because most of these things that I've seen happen on the weekend and after 7 or 8 o'clock at night, because that's when most of these folks come in. But I still haven't seen any commercial so-called vehicles. I've seen pickup trucks with ladder reels on them. I've seen down on Delwood, there's one gentleman that does have a trailer that has trash on the back of it. He parks kind of in the street and out of the street. That needs to be addressed. So we would probably have to change our code enforcement to later hours to circumvent some of these issues, or at least do a analysis, have them on in the evening, late in the evening, so that and on the late in the evening weekend, so they can see these issues, so that we can address them. So once again, if code enforcement, the manager has that information, I would appreciate it if he would enlighten us as to how many box trucks he sees in the city, especially in Ward 1. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Councilwoman Jones, I will be more than happy to get that information to you. Unfortunately, I do not have the stats right here in front of me, but I'll be more than happy to get that to you as soon as possible.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Councilwoman Fareed.
Thank you, Council President. Just a couple of things in response to what has been said. One, I think it's ludicrous to suggest that people will now be renting out their driveways. If people were going to do that, that would already be something that was happening. So this would not increase that propensity in the city. Two, again, as it relates to Woodmore Town Center, HOA specifically, if there are concerns about whether or not or what the HOA has and what they don't have, that should be taken up with the HOA board of directors. None of the council members that live in Woodmore Town Center are on the HOA board. So we have no say or no jurisdiction over what is done or enforced or not enforced over here. There are many, many rules that are required to be adhered to as part of the HOA that I'm sure the rest of the city would not want to adhere to. But that's neither here nor there as it relates to this particular legislation. We are legislators. And regardless of where we live in the city, the legislation that we write impacts everyone in the city. So it's not targeted at anyone in particular. And again, please, I think it's important that people do their research and become educated on things before they're speaking specifically on topics that they're unaware of. This legislation relates to vehicles and their class of service. It's also unrelated to whether or not they're licensed in the city. That is a whole completely separate issue. If there's a concern that there are commercial vehicles or work vehicles in the city of Glenarden, and there's a concern that they're not registered businesses, then there is code enforcement that should be pursued related to that. This legislation is not allowing or giving license to people to say that you do not have to adhere to any of the rest of the laws in the city of Glenarden. That's just not true at all. This legislation is specifically related to what type of vehicles can and cannot be parked in the city, and those that are permitted to be parked in the city, where they can be parked.
Okay, thank you. And Vice President Ferguson.
Yes. I just wanted to say that there is a lot of a lot of cars, trucks, big vehicles that are in Ward 1. I've been in Ward 1 for 65 years. And not everyone is government workers. My father, he was a master builder, and he had just a regular little pickup. It didn't have no ladders or anything on it, but it did have company name on it, and he parked on the side of the house. But there are, Fisk Avenue, Delwood, Johnson, Grant, what's the other one? Polk. It's terrible. And in my understanding, with this legislation, it would definitely clear those trucks off of that those streets. As far as we did have some people come to the meeting, and one particular guy was saying that he parks in his driveway, and that's his livelihood. We did talk when this legislation came before about having a compromise, try to compromise, and we talked about getting exceptions or whatever. Maybe this can be tightened up. I'm even more, but like for instance, they can park a van in, a work van in their driveway. A work van, or the vehicles have to be registered to that particular household. Whereas that would probably eliminate if people do try to start renting out their driveway. Because some people may have two vans, two regular little vans, but it should be only one per resident, as far as I'm concerned. But I am from Ward 1, and I do know it is congested. But I've had some people say things to me outside of coming to the meeting that this is their livelihood. Just a regular little van, like a Lay's potato chip van, that is some of them is not as big as some of these trucks that they have, Escalades and things like that, but they need to work. So it's just, for me, my whole thing is to try to make a compromise so that people don't have to lose their jobs or have to move out. And that's where I am with that. But I don't know anybody particular that has work vans or work trucks. I don't know anybody in particular. So that was just me as trying to bring a compromise. And maybe this legislation still can be worked, but I do believe that we have citizens of all occupations, and they are citizens. And this is coming from Ward 1, 2, and 3. Yes, I'm at large, and I also represent every ward. And I've talked to people in wards, not a lot, but different wards, and they have they have concern about their livelihood if they can't have their small vehicle. It's not even a big truck like ladders and things like that. I think I have seen trucks with ladders and everything like that in Ward 1. So I don't know why that hasn't been seen, but they are definitely there, and I am an advocate about getting them off the street. And they really don't even need to be in the driveway. Those big ones that put the trucks and all. With the the equipment on it and the ladders and stuff like that. I am against that, regardless of what weight it is. So I just want to clear that I do care about all wards, and I do know that there's a big problem in Ward 1. But also, we've had some people come and speak up that they don't know what they're going to do if they can't have the choice to put it in their driveway. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Councilwoman Guillaume.
Thank you, Council President. A lot of what I was going to say has already been stated, but I'll just reiterate certain things and also give my viewpoint on others. One thing, let me just wrap up one thing about the attorney. I do think that a point was made as far as how come the attorney responds to certain council members and not to all. And I think it would make sense for us offline to actually send an email to the attorney to raise this issue, as opposed to just pointing fingers or making accusations on maybe it's the council vice president or the council president who is giving the attorney directive. I too have had my concerns about certain lack of feedback or follow through from the attorney, but that's neither here nor there. I just think that if we're going to be fair, let's address the issue with who the person is. And if the person is the attorney, then let's make sure that we circle back with the attorney. I don't think it's appropriate, in my opinion, to just have like a liaison of sorts, like I have to go through you, Council President, or you, Council Vice President Ferguson, for the attorney to respond. But nonetheless, I do think that this is an issue that is serious enough to just be brought to the attorney's attention so he can give us some information as to why that's happening or why it's not happening. So just want to touch on that. The next thing that I would like to talk about is about this particular legislation and how and why I'm supporting it and how I got to this place as far as my support is it's been over a year, but I recall us coming to this as far as discussing this issue, and there was no compromise in sight. And in between the year, we heard, or at least I heard, let me speak for myself, nobody else is talking about it. Nobody's bringing anything up. Nobody's coming up with a compromise. You all are saying, no, but you're not saying anything. Only the Ward 1 council member, in this case, Councilman Herring, is the only one that's discussing it. So why I actually commend Councilwoman Fareed for writing this is it's actually showing that other people do care about parking. Not just one council member, not two, but other people do care. So I want to say that we can't say that, no one is offering anything or bringing up anything. And then at the same time, when they do bring up stuff, it's you guys don't care. I don't think that's genuine and fair. I also want to say that, at least for me, the majority of the concerns that I have heard as far as being opposing what was being presented to council as far as the legislation that was brought forth a week or so ago has been coming a lot from Ward 1 members. It has been coming from, it hasn't just been concentrated in one particular area. It hasn't been concentrated in Woodmore Town Center or wherever. It's been from citizens that are in Ward 1, Ward 2, and Ward 3, but majority I've at least heard have been coming from Ward 1. So we can't just say we agree. When we agree with certain people in Ward 1, we're pro Ward 1, or when we disagree with people from Ward 1, certain people from Ward 1, we're against them. Like it can't be one or the other. It's we support citizens if we agree with where their stance is. I've seen Fisk Avenue myself. I've seen Delwood myself. And what I remember hearing a lot was the issue about we can't get our cars down the street. We can't find any parking. a lot of the older citizens, if they have doctors or nurses aides or whomever coming to visit them, they can't even turn on the streets because there's so many commercial vehicles that are taking up the parking, and there's no way for cars to turn onto the street. This actually is a compromise. This actually is saying you have to park in your driveway. No more of this street nonsense as far as you can park 90 million cars and block up people's personal driveways, your neighbors' driveways, or things of the such. So to me, this is a huge compromise. I can't see people, again, this is for now, I can't see people saying they can't get their cars down the street because there's commercial vehicles in the street, because that will now be non-existent should this legislation pass. Now, I also want to stress that, and I believe others have said this before, but it's a zone. I strongly believe that it's the zoning thing. In addition to this, it's a zoning thing where for those who have been living in the city for over 20, 30, 40 years, a lot of those homes were occupied by one family. Now, a lot of these homes have been transitioned to their grandchildren or their children who probably don't even live here. So they rent out the homes by bedrooms. And so here it is, you had one house with probably 2 or 3 cars. Now you have one house being rented out, by 4 or 5 different people who have 4 or 5 different cars. So that's another topic for another day. But I do also want to say 2 more things. One is, for me, as far as aesthetics is concerned, if somebody has their own driveway, I could care less if they're driving a Hyundai, a Kia, or Escalade, or they have a van parked in their driveway. That's not my concern for me. And I cannot stress that enough. I think that there is a change of guard where a lot of citizens, a lot of people nowadays, especially as far as demographics are concerned, they do need working vehicles. It's no longer I have to go into the office. A lot of people have changed. There are different occupations now. So I don't think, as far as when the commentary was made, as far as blue collar, or what it was meant as far as low income or no income or whatever, it's more about different types of occupations. So again, as far as how the driveways are concerned, for me, I could care less unless it's something that is against, like, it's run down with no wheels on it. That's something different. But if it's a vehicle that is parked in someone's driveway, it's not in my way. It is what it is. That's me. And I want to lastly say this. I hear a lot about the law. It's the law. It's the law. I want to remind everyone on this call that slavery was once the law. Slavery was the law for hundreds of years. That doesn't mean that it's right. So for me, whether it's the HOA, whether it's the city of Glenarden, whether it's the county of Prince George's, whether it's the state of Maryland, whether it's the country that I live in, this amazing country, I don't necessarily have to agree with all the laws that are in place, because sometimes people have an opportunity to go back and amend certain laws. And this law for me is something that this legislation for me, is something that I see strongly as a right step in the right direction as far as a compromise. So that's why I asked to co-sponsor. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Guillaume. All right. Thank you all for your comments on this legislation.
Mr. President, I do have something I want to follow with, because all these comments were said, and I do have something to follow with, because a lot of the stuff is not accurate. Again, that's why I know people who say they know War One don't know War One. Because again, you're going to get the cars off, you're going to get the trucks into the driveways, and the cars in the driveway are going to go on the street. So it's not going to alleviate the problem. That's why I keep on saying, people say they know War One. No, you don't know War One. You know what you think you know of War One. You know what somebody may have told you about War One, but you don't know War One. There are so many cars in this neighborhood, and there's so many people parked around this neighborhood. So if you allow commercial vehicles in this neighborhood, they're going to take a driveway, and the cars in the driveway are going to go on the street. So you're not alleviating anything. I think if people want to put stuff out there, they need to do their research first, because you don't know Ward One. You don't know Ward 2 or 3 because it's not only happening in Ward 1, it's happening in Ward 2 and 3. Every place has an issue when it comes down to parking because a lot of houses are now split level. You talk about multifamily homes, what are you doing about that? It's a zoning violation. Is anything being done about that? But no, you're encouraging that by allowing commercial vehicles to be put into a driveway. Again, you don't know Ward 1. I live in Ward 1. I born and raised in Ward 1, born and raised in Glenarden. I see what's happening. I see how it's changing in the city. So you don't know it. And you're not going to sit there and tell me that you do. Again, it makes absolutely no sense to sit there and say, okay, you can put commercial vehicles in your driveway and that's going to alleviate the parking problem. No, it's going to put cars on the street. So now what are you going to do about the cars on the street? You're still going to have the same issue. You're not addressing the situation. You're addressing the situation in one. And let me just say something else too. If you live in a jurisdiction, you live in HOA, you should really know your HOA rules and regulations because you can go to your committee to address your issue when it comes down to parking. I'm not saying there's absolutely nothing. I hope nobody does go to the committee and get the rule changed in your HOA because it would take away from your neighborhood to sit there and see box cars and box trucks all throughout that neighborhood. Again, can I share my screen right quick, Mr. President?
Sure. I will. Can I? Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Let me just share my. Because I want people to see what we're talking about because they're making you think it's a little car, a little truck, a little pickup is going to be there, but a vehicle that's under 6,000 pounds, that's under 10,000 pounds is a nice size van. And I don't care what you say when it comes down to, it's locked off.
It's locked off.
It says it's closed. Sharing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this vehicle is 9,000 pounds. This vehicle is under 10,000 pounds. This vehicle is under 10,000 pounds. So these are not small vehicles. These would be sitting in your driveway. And I guarantee you, if this was sitting in your driveway, beat down, battered up, rusted and old and looking, you would not be happy with it. And I don't care what nobody say. You would not want that part next to you. You would not be happy with that at all. And again, you can go to your covenants committee in your HOA if you want to get the rule changed there. I hope you don't, because that's a very good rule that y'all should have to protect the value of your homes. I would never agree with something like that. If they're smart, they won't change it. But again, if you're going to do it across the whole city, then maybe you should approach them and make it standard across the city, because right now it does not affect your area or any other HOA that have this in it. And I'm not just picking on Wilmot Town Center. It's any other HOA that has this in their covenant, which they probably all do, because that's been the law for so long in Prince George's County. And that's why they restrict commercial vehicles in the city. And I just and when the council member comes on here who lives in Ward 3 and sit there and don't tell the truth and say she's a Ward 1 resident, that's the farthest thing from the truth. Councilwoman Jones lives in Ward 3, and you need to not be putting information out there that's not accurate. And I'm telling you that, and again, and also, and hold up, and also, and she said she lived in Ward 1.
Go ahead, close out the comments.
I'm going to say what I got to say. But again, and again, with the box trucks, again, with the vehicles in here. And that's why I say, I know people sit there and say they know Ward 1. Somebody said they don't see these trucks in here. There's one parked directly across from me in the house directly on Tyler. I can see it. It sits right there. So that's what I'm saying. You don't know Ward 1. I see these trucks all over the place. They're all over the place. And I got seniors that say they can't get in and out of their driveway. And you're going to sit there and allow people to put more trucks into the city and cause them to have to deal with even more, because there's still going to be cars on the street. So I don't know what it is that you're talking about. And here right here is a site, neighbor.com. Rent your driveway out. This person rents theirs out for $50 a month. This person rents their driveway out for $60 a month. This is just around Glenarden. And so somebody's sitting there saying it's absolutely ludicrous that nobody will rent their driveway out. Here's the website right here. You can list your parking spot right now to say you're going to rent your driveway out. So it's ludicrous that you didn't do your research to find out what's out there and how that could negatively affect the community, because it will affect the community. And then you're going to say, well, people can run plates. So that means that that on top of everything else code enforcement has to do, now they got to go to each house and start running plates on every van. When you can just say they don't need to be in the city anyway. They got enough they got to do already. Now they got to sit there and run plates. And they don't even have the device to run the plates. So you got to call the police officer to run a plate. So that means you got a police officer taking off the street. So that affects them and their patrolling. This makes absolutely no sense. It makes absolutely no sense when you can just say no commercial vehicles like the county does, like other jurisdictions do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So 2 points of clarification. Councilwoman Jones said she might as well live in Ward 1 since she's always over family members' homes. She did say that she's a Ward 3 resident, but she has family in Ward 1. I won't speak for her. I mean, where she was born, but once Councilman Herring. So that is actually what she said. And then another thing is that there is another piece of legislation that actually Councilman Herring brought forward that sets up parking restrictions on the street. So it's not just this standalone legislation. It's actually this legislation coupled with Councilman Herring's legislation that would have parking enforcement for vehicles on the street. So if they move under this new legislation, if they move their vehicle to their driveway, they still will not be permitted to parking 7 cars on the street. That's why we have to get code enforcement up and running to actually enforce what we have put forward. Councilwoman Fareed.
Thank you, Council President. That's actually what I mentioned when I was giving the introduction to this resolution ordinance, that this would be coupled with that enforcement, which was a ordinance that Councilman Herring brought forth that I co-sponsored. So that would limit the number of cars that an individual house could have parked on the street, regardless of how many people or how many vehicles that home has, to restrict that parking. And just one other point, because I didn't know it was going to be the topic of discussion, but since it is, Mr. Karpinski did respond fairly quickly to my inquiry for legislative review or legal review on the ordinance, but I have also not had things responded to. I'm still waiting for a response back on the streets being turned over and what we could do in the meantime. So I did not want the picture to be painted that, that there was preferential treatment being given to any particular council members. I think we all have been equally waiting for responses from Mr. Karpinski at one time or another. Just this particular time, he did respond back pretty quickly. And again, I will just emphasize that none of the council members and myself as the person who wrote this legislation, I am not affiliated with the board of directors for the HOA at all. I am bound to the covenants of the HOA because I chose to live here in this HOA, just as I'm bound to the covenants of the city. I personally do not have any of these types of vehicles that would create an issue for me. So this is not a personal matter for me, but having heard the different citizens who have come forward from all different wards and heard what their concerns were being, to me, what stood out was the issue of what's on the street, right? And the obstruction of people being able to get through the street. So the size of the vehicles on the street, which is why you'll see in this legislation, even if you have those types of vehicles, like if you have a van or if you have a pickup truck and it's not for work purposes, it's just for your own personal purposes, those still have to be parked in the driveway, because the issue is not about going after people with work vehicles. It's about the size of the vehicles and the barrier they place on the streets for people to be able to get through easily. So it's not preferential in that way to anybody or discriminatory towards anybody. It's to make sure the streets are clear enough for people to be able to drive through in all wards. There are streets in Ward 3 that are also congested because of work vehicles. So it's maybe more prevalent in a particular ward, but it's not exclusive to any particular ward. And again, this is not personal. This is not about trying to have one thing for one area and something else for another area. That is not the intent of this.
Okay. Thank you. Councilwoman Guillaume, and then I think Councilwoman Jones had a point to make.
Thank you, Council President. This kind of piggybacks off of what Councilwoman Fareed just stated about the other legislation that was passed that both she and Councilman Herring had sponsored. And I believe, Council President, you mentioned that once we get code enforcement up and running, do we have an idea as to how long, and this doesn't have to be like in 21 days or whatever, but do we have an idea as to how long it will take for code enforcement to start doing the prior legislation in enforcing the prior legislation as far as the permits to each household? That's part one of my question. And that's either to you, Council President, or Mr. Green or whomever.
Mr. Green,
Can I answer that one?
what?
Because I just sat with Mr. Green and Mr. Simpson on that topic.
Oh, sure.
Sure.
So yeah, we're looking at February.
February, okay, no, okay, so 90 days.
Got to get notices out. We got to give them 30 days notices. But I'm gonna tell you honestly, just me personally, and maybe it's just me and me. The streets have got to be voted on by resolution by this council to make it permit parking. And I'm gonna tell you honestly, I think if enough people come to this council and whine about this, that, and the other thing, that it won't happen. That's just my feeling, really. I honestly believe that, because everything I come to the public, it doesn't just go into effect. The resolution got to come to the council. That's my personal feeling. That's my personal feeling.
Point of order, Councilman Herring. I get that, and I'll let you speak. But I don't want to take the floor away from Councilman Guillaume. If you want to reserve that for after she speaks, then that's fine. Councilman Guillaume.
Yeah, so that's basically almost 90 days, 3, 6, almost 90 days or less. And that being the case, should that be implemented or enforced? I now strongly believe that, again, the issue at hand will at least come to a happy medium where there's a household in particular, I'm not going to say which household, that has like 4 or 5 vehicles, which is ridiculous. And if we're now saying that this household has to park in their driveway, whatever that vehicle is, the big working vehicle, they could only have one, that means the other 3 have to go. That's already providing a reprieve. And if they do have cars, again, not working vehicles, but cars, then it'll be on the street. I want to be sure that, and it'll be on the street, but there'll be a limited amount of cars that will be associated with the household, should everything go in effect when it does go in effect, as far as February is concerned. Okay, I just wanted to put that out there, like just process that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilwoman Jones, I saw that you had a hand up, but it went down.
Thank you, Council President. So, but with the restricted the parking permits, I thought that was 25% of the residents, if they wanted their street to have parking permit, they could come forward, or the council could identify streets, and then we could vote whether or not those particular streets would require parking permits. That's the way I read that legislation. Maybe I need to pull it again and look at it closely if I'm not mistaken about that. And also, once again, I'm asking code enforcement, I'm not trying to put any more work on them than they already have, is to do an analysis of what vehicles are in Glenarden and all wards that they deem would need to be addressed. Just do an analysis and come back to the council and just let us know, because we can't sit here and assume, I know that there's a lot of, there's vehicles, but then there's vehicles the ones that we want to address, but, and I understand, like Councilwoman Ferguson mentioned, the Fisk, Grant, Polk, Tyler, but let's have code enforcement go through and do an analysis also, so that we know what it is we're going to be looking at, and what what's going to come back to us once if this ordinance goes into effect. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. And while we're having a helpful discussion, in order to move this along, if there's anything, yeah, well, we're going to make the rounds, but if these can be the final round, unless there's anything new that people are introducing, so we can continue to go on with our agenda. I'll go to Councilman Herring first, because I saw him unmuted, then Vice President Ferguson, and then we'll close it out with Councilman Fareed, unless there's some new point that a councilman wants to discuss. Councilman Herring?
Well, I let them go first. It's my legislation. I should close it out.
No, it's Councilwoman Fareed legislation.
Well, I mean, I'm questioning. I seem like I'm the only one questioning. I mean, the legislation. So I just go ahead. I'm done. I really am done. I'll address it at the regular meeting.
Okay. All right, Vice President Ferguson.
Okay, this question is addressed to Councilman Herring. With the parking permit legislation, it was mentioned that I guess the citizens on the street in question could request it, or we as a council can pick the streets to become permit parking only. Is that correct?
Yes, the council can do it, or the citizens can do it. Either one.
And if that is done, then can you familiarize me, or even the people on here? Is it 2 per household, or how does it work?
It's 2 parking permits per household, and if you're a senior and you have a home health care worker, you can get an extra permit for that.
And that's for the streets, and that don't have anything to do with the driveway.
No, the streets only.
Okay, so is there any reason why we can't pursue, I mean, as a council, especially, I mean, I know myself, I've had calls from Polk Street. There's no, to me, when I go down Fifth Avenue, I scrunch up in my car. When I go down Grant, I literally, the last meeting we had, I rode through Glenarden, and I do see commercial trucks in Woodmore too. Whether they're just there for whatever time, but it's terrible over there. So I would be all for going let the council go ahead on, and especially we've had multiple we know of multiple streets that have been complaining since this came to the floor. I think last year or year before. If we could suggest the streets ourselves, and we move forward with that.
Well, that's what I actually am having a code enforcement officer do, is reach out to the council members to get streets that they would like to have designated. So that's part of the phasing that we're going to do. So they should be reaching out to each council member, reaching out to the council and saying, do you have streets that you would like to designate, so we can get the resolutions going? Because they can't do the permits until we designate the streets.
Yeah, I understand that. And then again, they would be per household.
Yeah.
And then, does it go into any further, like, should the vehicle be registered to that resident, or not necessarily?
I guess I had to talk to Mr. Green when we talked about that, because that's kind of like a sticking point there. Okay. If somebody have another car, then you have a rental car, you don't want to get it towed if you got it. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to decide whether we want placards or stickers on the car.
Okay. So we don't know yet whether the permit will be, like you said, a sticker, or they can just kind of
the hanger,
a hang tag or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So he was looking into that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I just wanted to say that I am for the parking permits, and I think that would be a big help as well, because I think a lot of cars will disappear. And if we have to do a resolution, I'll be prepared to, to vote yes, cold, response or whatever. So thank you,
Thank
Councilman
you.
Herring. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. All right, and Councilwoman Fareed.
Thank you, Council President. I just got thrown off a little bit when I think it was Councilman Herring made the comment that the citizens will push back about having permit parking on their street. And I'm just trying to figure out, like, I thought the primary issue that residents were having was that the streets are congested with parking on the streets. So are there concerns only about parking on the streets for certain vehicles, or is it parking in general? That's what my understanding was, because if it's parking in general, one, I would expect that residents would welcome this type of thing so that everyone could have an equitable amount of parking, because I know there have been comments made about some houses have many, many people in them, and so they have many cars. But also I would recommend that we do all streets. I don't know why we would have some streets have permit parking and other streets not have permit parking. That seems to be inequitable. And that it should be kind of the other way around, that if 25% of the people don't want it, then they can petition to not have parking. But if we go street by street, then I'm not sure how we really address the problem holistically. Those are just my comments. Thank you.
Okay.
Council President, I'm sorry, this is not
Yes.
about the parking. This is not about this. I just wanted to say something that I remembered. I vaguely remember, well, first of all, Council President, may I? Sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I just remember vaguely that when Councilman Herring and Councilwoman Fareed came with this legislation, and I may be mixing it up with another one, that there were certain streets that were called out, like Smithview and things of the such, where citizens have actually voiced their concerns as
Yeah.
far as not being able to. So I'm thinking if we can go back to our meeting notes, or I could try to look for it, but there were some streets that were identified already. So just wanted to, I do recall that it wasn't all the entire city, it was certain streets that were called out. So just wanted to say that.
Thank you. And
Can I
yep,
clarify?
last word to you, Councilman Herring.
We can't enforce this permit parking in your HOA. We have no right to come in there and unless your HOA invite us in to do it, we can't do it.
Right.
Private property. So that we can't do it in your HOA. But also it is concerned about addressing Councilwoman Fareed's question. The citizens are concerned about parking, basically parking in general. And, again, it's going to be an issue because people are going to push back. Everybody are not going to agree with it, especially those who have multiple cars in their driveway. They're not going to agree with it. They're going to push back and they're going to complain about it. So, yeah, but again, we definitely cannot go into your HOA with this program. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda item is a resolution authorizing the server migration to cloud-based system, Microsoft 365 SharePoint by T-Spec. Are there any questions related to this resolution?
Yes, Mr. President.
All right, well, give me a second and I will pull it up. And
I can ask very quick while you're doing it. So I just want to know, include updated software for everybody. Microsoft Office Suite.
Mr. Simpson.
Yes, Council President. I do believe so. We have Terry from T-Spec to be able to answer specific questions. I do know with the Office 365 suite, we do have it available now, the online version. that some of us are definitely working with in the offices. But I will defer to Terry for any other questions relative to that specifically, if that's okay with you, Council President.
Sure. Terry, are you online?
Hi, yes, I am online.
Okay.
And I can answer that question. Most users have a license for Microsoft 365 currently. And the license does include the ability to use the SharePoint services that we're recommending for their file server purposes.
Okay.
There's one additional license that's required, and that's just to remove the Active Directory feature of the server. And it's called Intra ID. So we'll move those Active Directory services to the cloud, which is also a 365 product.
Is that included in this price?
Yes.
Okay. The question, how long will it take to switch over?
It will take a few days to do the actual switchover. It's a process of migrating the data. And then once the data is migrated, then we'll cut over.
So will our bill of software, our finance software, we're going to cloud-based, will that be affected with this migration?
The one way that you will be affected is when we move everyone to Intra ID for the Active Directory services. Each individual workstation will need to be touched so that we can direct that workstation and that user to the Intra ID environment.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right, thank you.
We will try to make it as minimal as possible.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Councilwoman Jones?
Yes, you said you would make the transfer minimal as possible. Are you planning on doing this like well, I guess tomorrow would be a good day because it's election day and nobody's in hall. Oh no, you couldn't be in town hall anyway. And then let's see, Veterans Day or days where the city might be closed that we could do this, or it has to be functioning.
It does not need to be up and functioning. We can work with you to try to find the best day possible to do the migration.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Mr. President, one more question.
Yes, Councilman Harris.
So you'll be doing this on-site and remote? Or?
Yes. The migration,
Okay.
some of it will be done on site and some remote.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, if there are no other questions, Terry, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next is resolution to extend a contract with HR Hilarios Landscaping for snow and ice control. Are there any questions related to that resolution?
Yes, Mr. President.
All right, go ahead.
Yes, this is the last year of this contract?
Yes, Mr. Herring, it is.
So you're getting ready to put out an RFP for next snow season?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Any other questions? All right, and the last one is resolution authorizing the adoption of an updated department policy manual for the City of Glenarden Police Department. Are there any questions?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilman Herring.
We really need to go through this. I mean, this is a lot of stuff that we don't even know if we agree with or we don't agree with. I mean, this is a lot. And I know as councilman, I can't just sit here and, blanket rubber stamp this whole thing without knowing what's in it. I think it's something that we really need to look at. And this went through Lexapro or who did this go through? Lexapro or something like that? and get them on get them on the line so they can give us a brief on this thing.
Well, I'll turn it over to Chief about how this came about. Chief?
Good evening, everyone. Chief Bryant. Yes, this is one of the general orders to Lexipol. They pretty much do all the general orders for the municipalities, all our neighboring municipalities, and all across the country. I was out with them for several months, and we went over the general orders. It's a lot. It's I think it's 579 pages, but it's mandated and governed by the state and by the training commission and stuff. So you can go over and look at it, but it's still general orders that everybody follows as far as it applies to police departments and stuff. So I don't know if you understand all of it anyway, but it is mandated. And on Wednesday, we have a meeting because some of the general orders are updated because of state laws and stuff. So that's one of the things we have with Lexipol. When anything's updated by the state through the nation, whatever, we have meetings about it to make sure we're in compliance and updated so everybody can stay in compliance. But yeah, feel free. It's 579 pages. You can look through it. But at the end of the day, it's the police department on general orders that's all sworn officers go by. So feel free and you can take a look at it. And like I said, I'll be meeting the city manager and myself. We'll be meeting with Lexipol on Wednesday just to update a few of the general orders him and I looked at today. I'm just keeping them in the loop on what's going on in reference to it. But like I stated, this is something I was trying to get since I joined in. Became the chief of police for the city of Glenarden, and most of the municipalities follow these guidelines within the scope. So that's all I have on it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Chief Bryant, are there any other questions? Okay. Hearing none, the administrative reports are also available for council members to review and prepare their questions for a regular session, unless there are any pressing questions now. Hearing none, oh, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Fareed.
This is not a pressing question, but I definitely wanted to acknowledge Mr. Simpson and Ms. Bunn and all others in Public Works, et cetera, who assisted with the grand opening of the 7th Street Park on Saturday. They did a phenomenal job pulling it together, everything from the flyers that Ms. Ward did to Mr. Simpson coordinating with the builder, and making sure the fencing was there and just making sure the space was really nice. Ms. Bunn really did a great job of making sure it felt like a nice ceremony and getting the photographer and videographer, which we have a wonderful video from. And so I just want to make sure that they get their flowers on this, because we could not have done that without them, and I thank them so much.
Thank you, Councilman Fareed. Sure, it was nice. Sorry I couldn't be there, but I had another ceremony to attend. Chief Bryant, is it hand on purpose or accident?
No, that's on purpose. I just wanted to say that the trunk or treat went very well. That we had on Saturday. I can't remember the exact date, but trunk or treat went very well. And thanks for participation from the council members. And I'd like to thank Councilman Herring for helping us out with donating potato chips and stuff for the kids for the event. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Moving on, I do want to hit one as we go into topic of discussion. There is, I think, one person with us from the Mutual of America Retirement, so I want to address that first. So we don't, I forgot the gentleman's name, but he has been here the entire meeting, so don't want to have him wait any longer. So the first topic of discussion is the Mutual of America retirement update with presentation. Mr. Stewart, could you remind me of who we have on the line?
Okay, so we have Mark from Mutual of America, and he is our representative as it relates to our retirement fund. Mark Riley, he will assist us with identifying the ideal or the best investment or retirement plan that we could go on and make a decision to move forward.
Okay. Is there a recommendation that you're submitting forward, or?
So
No.
I had written and said that I had a recommendation, given the fact that we are a local government and the 457 plan is really for government workers. I was making that recommendation for us to adopt that, which is moving from the flap that we currently are under. So let me explain. So currently the city pays retirement fund for the employees, and that is direct, and the employees are not contributing to it. One of the things that Mutual of America explained to us is that that plan is no more, but we are grandfathered in. So whenever we have new employees, they get grandfathered into that plan. But we are considering to move away from that plan to go to either 457B, which is government, or 403B, which is for nonprofit organizations. I think the 457, as I was saying, given that we're local government, would be the best plan for us to move forward on.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Riley, did I pronounce your name right? I'm sorry.
Riley's great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Did you have anything to add or inform us on about the plans?
Absolutely. In my conversations with Dean, I think it's been very clear to me that he's trying to figure out the best way for this benefit to be maximized for the participants in the plans. That's been very clear to me. The current setup, to Dean's point, it's currently is a two-plan setup, okay? And what that means is there is what he referred to correctly as the flat plan, that is employer contribution only. But there is currently also the 457 governmental plan as the other plan in place currently. And right now that is written as only employee money, if you will. So only contributions from the participants in the plan. One plan employee money, one plan employer money, if you will. Nowadays, you can have an individual plan that allows for both. And there was some discussion that we've had on what makes the most sense moving forward. There's actually nothing wrong with having two plans. I think to his point, the flap, we're no longer writing new flat plans moving forward. Okay. And so I think the idea is, and Dean, maybe you can help fill in the gap here, but is there the desire to make a change and incorporate a matching contribution? That was one of the things that we discussed, Dean. So maybe help me out here with.
Yes. So one of the discussion we had was to determine whether or not we wanted to have a matching situation where the employees would be encouraged by having a match from the city to do their retirement. And with that, I think that's when we were talking more about the 457 or the 403B and moving away from the flap. Mark, maybe you could
Yeah.
speak a little more on that?
Certainly.
I do have a question, just an energetic question. Encourage or require, just to be clear. Is that a matching requirement or a matching encouragement?
It depends on what you all want. That's if you all want to enhance the plan with matching contributions, meaning an employee puts money in, they can be matched with employer money, as opposed to either in addition to or as opposed to what is currently in place, which is the employer, the city of Glenarden, just puts a flat amount in, right?
Right,
No matter
right.
if you're contributing or not. So a lot of times providing that matching contribution can encourage more participation in the plan. So, but sorry, did that answer your question, sir?
Yes, I believe so.
So to Dean's point, I think from our perspective, the 457 governmental plan that's currently in place has the ability to incorporate matching contributions with it. We would just have to do a plan amendment. And then that allows for, should the city of Glenarden decide to offer additional matching contributions, you can do that. And we can design it the way that makes the most sense for the city of Glenarden. Meaning you can say it's one, you put in 1%, we'll give you 1%. If that ever comes to be, that's something that can be done with the current setup. I think the path of least resistance is to maintain this current setup. And if you want to incorporate that matching contribution, you can do it on the 457 plan.
And what is, two questions. One, what is your recommendation? The second question was, can it be a mixed bag? Can it be, for example, the city automatically gives, let's just say 3%, but if you match it by 3%, then the city will contribute like 6%. Something like that.
So within the 457 plan, that is something you can do. The restriction on the flat plan, the current plan that the city is giving money to its participants through, there's no matching capability there.
Okay. All right.
But that doesn't have to change. So you can leave that as is. You can continue whatever it may be for your example, you can continue to give 3% there. If you wanted to do something additional, if you wanted to say, all right, we would also like to write into the 457 governmental plan. If you put in 3% of your money, we will give you 3% on top of that within that plan for a total contribution from the city of Glenarden of 6%.
Okay.
So I think you were kind of getting to, can you do both? Can you design this in a way that you get multiple things? Yes. You can keep the flap as it is. You can incorporate a new matching provision in the 457. My recommendation would be that. And I'm happy to go through the pieces of it that are unique to this setup that Dean and I have talked about, but I do think that is the easiest path forward. And I would say there's no negative impact unless there was a person that was trying to max out their own contribution within the 457 governmental plan, which their maximum contribution, whether it is employer or employee combined in the 457 governmental, is in the year 2024, $23,000, for example. Whereas there are other employer-sponsored retirement plans, as Dean mentioned, the 403B, that has higher limits.
Well, thank you.
So I
I'll-
realize that may have created more questions for you. I apologize if it did. I'll say this as well. You do currently have a benefit in the two plans that you have that you have a minimum guaranteed interest rate in the interest accumulation account. So, for example, 3% in the governmental 457 plan, there is an account that you can get a minimum interest of 3% paid on your money. That is your most secure investment, whereas there are different there are different fixed income availabilities within a new 403B plan. This is just one that is locked in at the moment with your current plan.
So with the current plan, we have two. We have the flat and we have the 457 plan.
Yes.
They do have a diversity in what they can invest that portion in the 457 of how they want to invest their retirement funds, correct?
Yes, it is. It is a plan where you get to choose your investments.
Okay.
So you have an investment lineup. You've got investments that hit all 6 categories deemed by the DOL to provide a diversified lineup of investments. More than just 6, but the 6 categories are met. And within that, you've got several different investment options. Yes.
How about the other plan, the flat plan?
The flat plan is a similar annuity-based product where you do have those options as well. So they're very the investments are the same in each for you to choose from. They're just technically 2 different plans still.
And the ease of employees to be able to manage those, will they have to log into 2 different systems to manage those plans, or is it all housed in one login?
You should have one login and be able to move from each plan from one plan within to the other within the same login.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So here's something to consider, and I don't mean to take more of everyone's time. Should the city decide they want to, really the only reason to consider a change is if the city wanted to incorporate additional employer contributions, right? If there were no changes needed to be made, then there's really nothing wrong. We're not gonna, as of today, we're not forcing people out of these plans that they're grandfathered into. And so what happens is if you were to decide to terminate a plan, all those funds become available to the participants in that plan. It basically eliminates the penalty that would be implemented by the government if they were to withdraw their money based on the fact that it's a terminated plan. Not always in the best interest for long-term savings, but it's part of the equation when you are terminating a plan. But if the city wants to incorporate a matching contribution, I think it makes the most sense to do it within the 457 governmental plan that's already in place. If for some reason the 403B was preferred, we could start up a 403B alongside the 2 current plans, which I realize is a 3rd plan, but then we could provide the education, the support, the service to give everyone the tools that they need to make the decision if they want to roll their current assets into that 403B plan, if need be, prior to terminating.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Are there other questions from council members?
Yeah, Mr. President. I guess my thing is, why do we need 2 plans? I'm not understanding that. It seems like it's just confusing. I mean, I don't think the staff was really, I mean, yeah, why do we need 2 plans? I'm not understanding. It seems like it's just a extra step that they have to do to maintain and monitor their money and monitor their funds and make allocations of distributions or however they want to allocate the money across different investment vehicles. So what is the reasoning for having the two plans? I'm not understanding it.
If I may, I'm happy to jump in, but I don't want to speak too
No,
soon.
go ahead, Mr. Riley.
It's really a legacy way of doing it. Prior to 403B plans and 457 plans allowing for both contributions. So that's the short answer. And then your plan has been in place, I believe. I'm looking right now in our system since the 80s. So it would have been prior to some of those changes that allow for both to take place in one plan. It's more of just a legacy way of doing it. And when things haven't changed, there's been no reason for change. Moving forward, as Dean mentioned, there is the option to do it within one plan. And we're happy to help with that. It just, some of those other concerns are why I think Dean wanted to bring this to the attention of everyone.
So can you roll over the flat into the 457 or no?
That one, well, I apologize. I have to double check on that. Most all plans allow for rollovers, and if they don't, you can amend them to allow for it. That flap, I would just have to double check that. I don't see why a 457 wouldn't allow for it, so that is a consideration.
Okay.
I really apologize. I don't intend to make this in any way more confusing. With the limitation on the 457 governmental being, for example, in 2024, $23,000 maximum contribution from both parties. If you wanted to maintain the flap contribution currently, that frees up space for participants in the 457M to contribute more of their money. It's the only reason that is something to consider.
I got you.
So the rollover from the flat would basically take up some of that 23,000.
The rollover wouldn't. It would only be for the employer contributions that you then start making into the 457 governmental.
Mm-hmm.
The rollover doesn't affect it per se. It's just the annual amount. So 23,000 for the 457 governmental, for example, in a 403B, that same amount is the maximum for just employee contributions. And then the total contributions for all employer-sponsored plans is 69,000 in 2024. So that shows you kind of the difference between 23,000 and 69,000 is where employer contributions can come into play. There's a few other things that can come into play there as well, but it all depends on if that's an issue that you're having or if that's a concern that we want to allow for.
Is there any administrative fees that would be assessed for us making any of these changes, or?
No, as far as the changes, amendments, that's all included in your plan. That's part of the services that we provide.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions? Hearing none, Mr. Riley, thank you very much for joining our meeting and answering our questions. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Next, we can go to electronic signature resolutions. So this is a recommendation from the council clerk in order to get resolutions signed a little bit quicker. I understand we may not be able to do this for ordinances, but wanted feedback from council members on whether we will be willing for resolutions only to switch to electronic signatures so you don't have to physically come into the office to sign. That's open for discussion.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir. Councilman Herring.
old school. I'm going to sign my signature. That's the only signature you're going to see, so you'll know what it is. Those docu signatures, they use the same writing style. So me, I'm like, no, I don't. So if y'all can do it, I'm gonna be still coming in to sign mine.
Okay. Any other comments? Any other opposition? Can we, can we just go through, how do we do this? Just take consensus. We all know Mr. Herring wants to, continue to physically sign his. If you could just respond on whether you want to be a part of the, DocuSign, please just say yes for electronic, no for physical signature.
Council President,
Yes, sir. Councilman Hairston?
why we can't just do both? It'd be your choice.
Yeah, that's
Why we
right.
gotta pick one or the other. Or we
No, no,
not
no,
voting
no.
to pick one or the other.
No. I'm not saying vote to pick one or the other. So,
Okay.
for example, Councilman Herring already stated that he doesn't want to do electronic, he wants to put his in handwriting. So, his will still be a physical signature. So it's just, yes, you want to switch over to to be included with a DocuSign. Maybe that's better wording. Yes, you want to be included with a DocuSign. No, you want to continue to do the physical signature. We're not doing either or, we're doing both. So if you don't want to participate, you won't participate. But if you do, we'll route it via DocuSign to those individuals who would like to. So Councilman Harrison, are you in or out?
I want both. I ain't want to pick one or the other. But if I got to pick one or the other, I'm gonna come in and sign.
Oh, okay. So you're saying that some you want to electronic and some you don't want to.
It may be situational. Like I may be
Oh.
out of town, may have to get something done. So that's why I was saying, do we have to pick one or the other? But if we're not
Okay.
picking, then I'm gonna sign mine. I'm gonna come in.
All right. Well, I mean, let's put it this way, since it's new, is there anyone who wants to switch to electronic signatures?
Council President,
I would, sorry, couldn't come off mute.
I'm fine with what Councilman Hairston said, so I don't want to say I'm not for it. I am for it, but I'm fine either way for the option. I personally am better with DocuSign, but I'm fine with the option of both. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And maybe there is a way, to Councilman Harrison's point, to do both. Like if it comes to you and you sign off on a DocuSign, fine. If you pass and then, well, I don't know if you can do that, but I don't know.
Yeah, again, just the fact that it's an option, like I think before it's never been an option versus like, because right now, the way I'm hearing it, and I just realized I didn't raise my hand. I apologize.
Just go ahead and finish.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Before it was, you have to sign it with your, wet signature. And then now it's saying DocuSign, right? Like 100% DocuSign, not wet signature. But then if there's a happy medium as far as the option for both, because right before there was no such thing as DocuSign for us, the option. And for me, it's easier for me for DocuSign personally, but I'm not opposed to other folks who want to attach their wet signature. I'm not opposed to it, but
Yep.
okay.
Okay. Councilman Fareed?
I think you were asking, was there anybody who only wanted to do DocuSign? I'm fine with only doing DocuSign.
Okay. Is there anybody else? Okay. So what we'll do is I'll talk to the council clerk to see if there's some hybrid method of doing it. If there isn't, then, what we can do is we can send it through the DocuSign, 100% DocuSign, preferred council members first. And then make it available for others, whether they want to do DocuSign or sign it. We'll just discuss. I'll talk to the council clerk about it. All right, next up is the ARPA update. As you guys know, I forgot, Mr. Himmler, thank you, to myself. Mr. Himmler was on maybe a couple months ago about the ARPA funds. We are nowhere near, I think, obligating the fund. So wanted to get a breakdown of where we are. Mr. Stewart, do you have the spreadsheet that we can display?
Yes, if you give me control of the screen.
Yes, you can share.
Can you see the screen now?
Nope.
Let me see how to.
About to come through. All right. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so what we have here is the deferred account for the American Rescue Plan. As you can see here, at the bottom, we have 2,445,000 as unobligated. This is the amount that we really need to look into. The first item that is on this list is a 200,000 that was approved in budget for the goal room to do some infrastructure, do some repairs and some improvement to it. Now, are we going to do these things? Because we have one, the goal room, 200,000. We have the council chambers, 500,000. The intergenerational poverty, I don't think we're going to go any further with that. So we still have 9,500. The education and scholarship program is running. I don't know if we're going to make that 144,000, but I think we're pushing. We're getting close. The biggest idea that we're looking at, though, is the amount that is set for the city of Glenarden, that 1.3 million, the 1,387,000. That will be using salaries to cover that amount. But when we look at the budget for 2025, we have 2,800,000 in salaries. Now I'm thinking maybe we could put all of this money into salaries.
Yes.
And then do the other program as we have been speaking about before.
Yes.
I think that would be the best thing to do. Get that out of the way, because what is happening is I only have, let's say, 6 weeks to get this done.
Yep. So, council members, we've talked about this before, and I think we punted on this, but we're really running out of time before we have to return this $2.4 million. So I'm in agreement with with Mr. Stewart that we should designate the balance for salaries so that we can free up a surplus to do everything else we want to do when we want to do it. Councilwoman Guillaume?
Oh, goodness. Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. Thank you, Council President. I was just going to echo what you stated. This is why I tried to make the point a few months ago about this very same topic, where Glenarden, I just want to be clear, Glenarden is not isolated. We're not the only ones that was facing this particular predicament, or I should say opportunity. Let me reframe and just call it opportunity. And other municipalities throughout the country have chosen to go the route that is being proposed. And so, not that you're asking for it right now because this is a work session, but again, I would strongly encourage my colleagues to go towards that route of putting it towards salaries, because that way we can free up ourselves from having to return any ARPA dollars back to the federal government and still do our programs that we want to do without having any time constraints to do them.
Great. See any other hand? So can we, and Mr. Stewart, what's the protocol for what we have to do to package this and submit something to, I don't know, if it's the state or the federal government, how we intend to use, if we do decide this route, that we are indeed going forward with the salary
Well,
method.
what happened is we right now would take take on the salaries that we have paid since June through to December and have that as amounts that have already been expended. Now, from January through to June 2025, we could set that up as pre-em funds, and we should be okay with that. So the reporting, though, to the American Rescue Plan is in April 2025. But right now, we have to make sure that we obligate all of this fund before December 31st, 2024. And
Yeah.
that's the predicament that we're in. So if I could get that authority to move forward and set up what we have paid already through salaries, and then make the prepaids for 2025 through to June, then we would have totally exhausted and used all of that fund.
Okay. Just one piece. I know Councilman Herring we passed legislation. I can't recall what it was currently, but it allocated about $300,000 to, was it the sidewalk repair or street repair?
It was elevator.
Elevator, thank you. Now, will we be able to obligate that?
By that time, it depends on when we get all of the contracts and everything signed off. Will that happen before December? If that will happen before, then we're in good straits.
Okay. So then I would like to take a consensus on moving forward with putting the balance of the ARPA funding. Yes, of the ARPA funding to include the $300,000 that Councilman Herring was talking about and amending his resolution to make sure that he still has his $300,000, but it's coming out the appropriate bucket. Because I think in the resolution it says ARPA funding. If we're not certain that we can sign a contract, and this is all, depending upon can we sign a contract? So not just, moving that money right then and now. But if we're not going to be able to sign a contract, then taking the consensus on moving all of this to salaries so that we can free up a surplus to pay for everything else. Does anybody have any questions with that?
Yeah, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
It's been reviewed with Mr. Hemmler.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Has it been reviewed with Mr. Hemmler?
Yeah, this was his suggestion when he came the last time.
I remember his suggestion, but I thought it was only, when he was talking about, I thought he was only talking about 2024 salaries as of December 31st, 2024. I didn't think he rolled into 2025.
Yes, because you can go through 2026. As long as you designate it as salaries, then you can go into 2025 all the way, and Councilwoman Guillaume, you can correct me on this, all the way through December 2026 as it relates to salaries.
That is correct.
Yeah. And
As
that's
long-
what he, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I heard a delay, Council President. If you were still speaking, then go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, as long as it shows that we actually have, like, it's contractually, and knowing that they're employees and that's already contractually, then that's fine. Now, if we create new positions after December, after we show them that we've already allocated the amount, that's different. But right now, it's fine. We're fine.
Okay. So yeah, so So that'll be it, Councilman Herring. And what he was saying was, if there's anything that we are 100% sure that we could obligate, then let's go ahead and obligate it, and then the balance, move that all over to salaries. Does that answer your question, Mr. Herring, Councilman Herring?
I just want to make sure. I'm not trying to give anything back. I just want to make sure all our I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Okay. So let's take, I'm sorry, go ahead. Is there, let's put it like this, is there anyone who disagrees with taking the salary approach? All right, hearing none, Mr. Stewart, please speak with Mr. Himmler to draw up any requirement we need to get this to whatever authoritative agency that we need to get to make sure that we don't have to send back any of the funds. And then, of course, after we have all that in place, we would like to see what the new budget will look like implementing the opera for salaries.
Will do.
Okay. I'm sorry, Councilman Fareed, I see that your name is on the opera update as well. Did you have anything else to add?
No, I just wanted to get that same update.
Okay.
Mhm.
Cool.
Thank you.
Well, you can stay on, Councilman Fareed, midweek programming with Zion Church. Councilman Fareed?
Sorry, I'm having a hard time coming off of mute. For some reason, you sound like you got far away.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, you have the mic.
Yes, so this is a program that Zion Church has reached out and wanting to do with us as they have been reaching out to us for the past couple of years through their community outreach committee, really wanting to partner with the city to bring, resources and just help build community. And so the Extreme Kids, which is the children's Church of Zion, wants to bring some programming, non-religious programming to the city and offer it to all children within the city of Glenarden, as well as children from the church. And so they would primarily be looking for us to provide the space for this programming. And they're looking to start a long time from now. They do plan ahead. This is starting fall 2025. And so I'm bringing that forth on their behalf.
When you say space, are you just talking about the gold room or something?
Well, I think we could figure out what is the most appropriate space. I think for this type of thing that the community room at Woodmore Town Center is like, that was the purpose of it, for community support type activities. So that might be a more appropriate space, particularly since the gold room is used for, events, revenue generating events.
Okay. Are there any other comments or questions for Councilman Fareed? Okay. Is there anything you need from us? Is any action item? Do they need an answer now on whether we want to participate?
Yes. So we would need to give them an answer, but also we would need to allow this, because per the rules, if I recall correctly, for the community room, you can't have recurring events there. Or that's not in the rules. Like, I couldn't say I would like to reserve the room every Wednesday at 6:00 for the next 10 weeks. That would be something that we would need to decide and agree as a council. And of course, if we are doing it for gratis. You're on mute.
Thank you. Ms. Bond, is that community room, is that room reserved often, or do we not see a lot of reservations for that?
So and this is something that I wanted to bring up to you guys.
You're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you now.
Okay, so this was something that I wanted to actually bring up with you guys because mostly during the week the room is not being used, so it would definitely benefit. They can benefit, or the students can benefit going over there. Another thing is just having organizations utilizing that space as well, so we can bring in more income over there. And this just not just Glenarden residents, just having workshops, during the week, so we can raise a little bit more.
You were back on mute, Ms. Bond.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yep.
Yes. So, but it is available during the week where they can utilize that space.
Okay. Is there any opposition to this proposal?
Mr. President, I would like to see a proposal. I mean, I've heard it, but is there anything in writing?
Councilman Fareed?
Yes, I provided that. It was a document that listed out the programs that they would have. Has it not been
I haven't seen
attached? I can re-forward it right now.
Yeah, it should be in the packet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have it. I just got the last thing I got was the general order. Hold on 1 second, wait a minute.
I don't see it either. Let me check my. Okay, well, is there a deadline, Councilwoman Fareed? Is it like this week or?
No, there's no deadline for this week. I definitely wanted to bring it before the end of the year.
Oh, okay. So, Council Clerk, if you just, I'll check to see if I have it, but if council members can check the emails, Council Clerk, you just send it again and put it at the top of our mailbox.
Okay.
The actual proposal, and that'll give us some time to look at it. So if we want to make a decision next week at the public hearing or at the regular session, then we can move forward that way, and that'll give people enough time to look at it and ask any questions they may have before they make a decision. All right. Councilor Herring, does that address your issue? Okay. Councilman Fareed, do you have anything else to add?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, next is Glenarden Police Building Suggestion Next Step Presentation. Oh, wow. Did not see that or forgot about it by Nichols Contracting. Or I'll tell her to put that first. Mr. Simpson, do you want to start us out?
Yes, good evening. This is a follow-up from last month's introduction with Gordian and our options relative to the police building. And they are here to give a brief presentation on next steps relative to design build and what those suggestions are. I believe we're going to be relatively brief with this presentation.
I hope that will be relatively brief. And I apologize, I just forgot, or else I would have put you right after the other presentation, so you wouldn't have to sit through everything. But who should we go to?
They start with Robin, Council President, with Gordian, and then he'll hand it over to Jerry Robinson with Nichols Contracting.
Okay.
Great. Can everyone hear me okay? Councilmen and councilwomen, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to quickly, reintroduce myself and give a little bit of a refresher. So my name is Robin Murhada. I'm with the Gordian, Maryland in-person team. In regards to the police building project, the state of Maryland created a job order contracting program and they partnered with Gordian on it. We administer that on their behalf. In this project, the city of Glenarden will be looking to utilize that program through the state of Maryland. It gives you access to a full suite for all aspects of facility from beginning to end in a compliant manner. So the long and short of it is whether it's the initial planning, the design, the construction, or the ongoing maintenance projects for years to come, for any public entity across the state, this program aligns with all Maryland procurement rules, regulations, and therefore allows the city to work with Nichols Contracting, who has already been pre-approved and pre-qualified through the state of Maryland to do projects like this and get them started quicker compared to, traditional lengthy methods. Plus, it allows you to encumber and obligate public funds like ARPA dollars. I know there's a lot of talk about that, but ESSER funds, federal dollars, grant dollars, state dollars. Through the program with the state of Maryland, you can obligate and use those funds in a compliant manner as well. So it's kind of, nuts and bolts, full suite. You can do everything from beginning to end. And the last time we spoke, we talked about getting on site to take a look at everything. Now that we've done that, I can turn it over to Jerry, Tyler, and the rest of the Nichols contracting team so they can speak on next steps.
I have a quick question. When you say obligate opera dollars, so let's just hypothetically say we move with you guys. What does that process look like in fully obligating an amount of money?
So we've actually been working with a lot of cities, municipalities, townships across the state that are in a similar situation as you. The ARPA funds do expire at the end of the year. They literally just won't be there anymore. So what people are doing is they're using the program to obligate some of those funds and pretty much create a PO for that money so that it has a scope of work, a predefined scope of work, and it can be obligated and already be tied to a project.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore you can actually keep the money and continue to use it, even if that project is completed, next year for say, or I believe the deadline to actually get projects completed is 2026. But even if that project takes longer through the end of the year, at least it's already obligated and set to go somewhere. And it's compliant. The contract vehicle includes, Davis-Bacon, certified payroll, everything that you need from a auditability standpoint.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt. You can proceed.
All right. Hey, thank you very much, Robin. Can everybody hear me all right?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. My name's Jerry Robinson. I'm with Nichols Contracting. I'm the account manager. Let me go on ahead and share my screen. I just have a slide presentation I can set up.
Jerry, before you get started, let's introduce Evan as well.
All right.
With,
yes.
Vance Woodward.
Okay. Yeah, I'm currently with MW Studios. Evan is the architect. We'll be splitting this presentation up into two parts. It'll be myself and Tom on the front end of it, and then as we move through the slides, Evan will be taking over and going over some of the design aspects for it. All right. Yeah, everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, Glenarden Police Station. We understand that you're looking either for an addition or a new facility. This is where we're going. The agenda for today, we're just going to go over introductions and then project objectives, potential design options and assumptions. So the pros and cons of an addition versus a new build. We're going to have a preliminary price analysis that's alongside of this. So we're going to give you just a rough estimated cost of what you'd be looking for either an addition or a new build. A project timeline, the duration of the project, of what we're estimating to be panned out, and then I'll be transferring it over to MW Studios for the design approach for the presentation. So Nichols Contracting, we're located out of Columbia, Maryland. We've been in business for over 33 years, and we actually specialize in design, build, and general contracting. We currently work on over 18 active IDIQ and JOC contracts with various federal, state, and local entities. We have a successful history working alongside the Gordian team to complete fast-paced design build projects under our existing JOC contracts. All right. Again, my name is Jerry Robinson. I'm the account manager with Nichols. I have over 12 years experience in construction. And then moving on over to Tom.
Yeah, hi. My name is Tom Walker. I'm a civil engineer. I'm the VP of pre-construction. I have a lot of experience working on lots of different types of jobs. I think we can be a real benefit here, bringing our experience to the table.
Thank you, Tom. Just wanted to go over the project objectives here. So ideally, what we're looking for is just to understand the needs of what needs and requirements that you have. Next is going to be design and engineer a high quality facility or building addition that complies with current code standards. We want to construct a proposed facility within an acceptable time frame to make sure that we meet your budget needs and provide additional features to supplement your current government need facility. All right, option one is an addition. I took an overhead shot for the proposed addition. As you can see, the build out was originally spoken about. That was going to be on the Leslie Avenue side of the building. And then over here, we understand that parking is a huge concern for you guys when it comes to your Gold Room events. So each of the options will have some type of integration of extended parking for you guys. So that's something to keep in mind. Basic options for the addition, we can move over. If you look over here at the couple pictures that we do have of your current building, I want you to note a few things. Number one is going to be the veneer, the brick veneer that you have right here. Number two is going to be your the trees and aggregate that is involved with the proposed addition area. And then number three is the mechanical that's all alongside the building. These are things that we can see. These are things that we know. These are issues that we know that we're going to have to run into. Number one, we're going to have to match the brick veneer if we do an addition. That then rises the question, where's the supplier? Can we actually match it? What's the closest replica? And how much is that going to cost considering the age of the building? Number two is going to be all the pull up for all the aggregate, the trees in the area. That's very common with a new build. And then number three is going to be repositioning of all the HVAC units that you currently have in the yard area. These are things that we can see, things that we know that we're going to run into. Issues within an addition is going to be things that we can't see. So pros and cons of both. Now, most of the pros for either an addition or a new build are going to be one and the same. You're obviously going to get improvements to whichever facility you decide to go with. You're going to have resource sharing. One of the big pros about an addition build is it does preserve the existing investment in the building. If we go in, we will. I've looked over. I've seen your electrical plan. I've seen the HVAC plan, and I've seen where your water source comes from. Putting an addition of this scale onto the existing town hall will, in fact, require us to do what's called a heavy up onto all those existing utilities. And the moment that we touch your existing utilities, we have to make it code compliant. So there is a lot of unforeseen cost that can come associated with doing an addition build because there's a lot of stuff that we don't know that we're going to have to heavy up. But we do know that we will have to bring it up to code if you do choose to go with an addition. Yeah. So temporary office space is also going to be another big con. That is money that's going to be allocated to putting all of your employees into a temporary office space while we work on addition for the build. This can be hundreds of thousands of dollars and is just money that is pretty much just pushed away pushed away in order for us to do an addition build for you guys. Construction's loud. It can be tough to work around. You're going to want some type of temporary facility to work out of while we're resizing the building. Another big con is actually going to be size restrictions. Brings up limited space. There's only so far that we can go, and then we also cannot build to the existing curb due to setback requirements. We may not be able to accommodate all the needs of the police officers due to the size restrictions. So there are a decent amount of cons that come along with an addition build, as well as just unforeseen costs. Option 2 is the new build. Now, obviously, new build is going to be much easier to do. We pretty much open up and we build it to the way that the code wants it to be built from start of design. So one of the better locations that we kind of felt, we jumped in and we looked at this area on the other side. This looks like it seems like a better area because it's right off of the main street. And then it allows a little bit of separation from the town hall, making it more of a focal point for the city. Obviously, there's a bunch of great things that go into a new build: security features, flexibility and adaptability, technology integration. We're going to be starting from scratch, so we're going to be able to set everything up with new technology. Aesthetic considerations, you're going to be able to choose exactly what you want your building to design. You can have it match the town hall. You can have it have some steel features in it. You can go with brick veneers, things like that. And then as well as budget management, it makes it actually much easier to manage a budget when you're doing a new build. We know all the costs that are going to be associated with it. We're building it from scratch. We know what we're going to have to do in order to pool all the permitting. This is just an idea of what some of the new builds will look like. This actually is a police building that was put up with MW Studios. It's located out of Perryville. They did about a 7,500 square foot new build for Perryville Police Department. Right here is the proposed site location that we looked at when we were on site. Like I said, it's a great location. Grading's great. We're right up next to water. There is a water source and there is power. So a lot of great aspects about the current proposed location. Pros and cons. Not a whole lot of cons when it comes to a new build, especially nowadays. Big thing is we know what we're getting into. We know what we're gonna have to build. We know that it's gonna be a CMU foundation. So the biggest things is gonna be zoning and permitting, and then maybe some additional maintenance costs that are gonna be down the road because it is a new building. But ideally, you're gonna be able to design for your needs. You're going to have a modern infrastructure. You have location advantages of where the proposed area is. It will be, in essence, a branding opportunity. It tends to show well to a city that you have a designated police force, and it'll be across the street from the town hall. Obviously, new energy efficient. It'll be energy efficient, and you will have the size to expand for growth later down the future. We know that you're looking at 35. You want to estimate about 35 officers down the road. This is more than enough space to be able to do that. All right, Tom.
Thanks. So we took a look at both options, and we made some assumptions when we were trying to come up with the preliminary budgets. 6,000 to 9,000 feet in both cases. A little bit more limiting if you talk about the building addition, because it would be a stacked 2-story addition up against the existing building. The new building would be a single-story, spread footing, concrete foundation, CMU walls, all the way up, and either a bar joist or some kind of a frame type roof. We've recently built a couple of structures somewhat similar to these, and we have a lot of current data that help us with our pricing. So we would move it. If you can move to the next screen, Jared. So I went and I took a look at the sizing of the building itself, the parking lot areas, the stormwater management, the water, the electricity, the power, the utilities, and I tried to come up with a reasonable budget breakdown uh, at a purely guessing design concept phase for building an addition. I'd like to point out a couple of things. The general requirements includes the design, which whether you hire a contractor and a design build environment, or you hire a designer, then you hire a contractor, you're still going to spend that money at some point. One of the advantages to this process is that it really expedites it. This is a wrap up of the divisional trades. There's a lot more, there would be a lot more detail that would give you a breakdown of the costs for each of the divisions. And I'll give you an example. For instance, Division 10 includes, toilet petitions, toilet accessories, lockers, fire extinguisher cabinets, chalk and tack boards, and a variety of other things that would be really essential to building a facility like this. And a number of these other trade divisions have drop downs of a similar nature. So when it comes down to it, and this price does include the parking lot across the street and temporary. The site work on the job is about $1 million. And a large majority of that is in actually developing the stormwater management plans, the grading, and then the asphalt, curb and gutter, and pavement marking. If you go build a parking lot right now, just as an individual contract, you probably end up spending $600,000 or $700,000 to get what you want. I estimated the parking lot for this one, I think it was about 75 spaces, because I think there would be a little utilization of what you have there. And when we get to the new build, that parking lot was a little bit bigger. This estimate also has about $300,000 worth of temporary in it. So, it's really up to you. You're going to get this, or if you want to build this, or you want to build the new building, the prices are not too far different. If you can go to the next estimate, Jerry, please. So this is the estimate for the new construction. I did it based on about a 7,500 square foot building, and the challenge with a 7,500 square foot building is the building's not really very big, given all the infrastructure that you have to put into it. So, if you were to do a unit cost per square foot on this, the price would be quite high. But, if you were to build a building twice this size, the price would not double. The price would only go up a little bit, and bring your unit price down. It does give you the flexibility of building a building that is a little bit bigger than you might need right now. You don't have that flexibility in your building addition. This, as Jerry had mentioned before, the building would be totally efficient. It would be all LED. You could probably have some solar on it. It would really be a very efficient, probably pretty decent looking building for this kind of investment. Can we move on, Jerry? Project timeline. MW Studios is going to talk about a feasibility study to see if you guys are interested in making an investment, to see what option you would like better. Once you get past the feasibility study, the design phase is probably 9 months from start to finish to permit, and the anticipated construction duration is 9 to 12 months after that. The 12 months would probably be more along the lines of something that you would need if you're building an addition, closer to the 9 if you're building a new build. So I mean, that's really kind of what you're faced with, making a decision to either renovate and add or build a new building. Jerry? So, I have been sitting here listening to your board meeting, and if you wanted to encumber funds, you could probably do it partially, just to get your ball rolling. It doesn't sound to me that you guys are in a position to where you would push forward on a big commitment, because the information that you need just probably isn't there yet. But if you want to make an investment, get the ball rolling, you could do that. If you wanted to allocate more, we suggested DBIA contract, which is pretty much an industry standard contract between owners and contractors for these services. It's fair. It doesn't necessarily tie you to a total price right now, but it does give you the ability to kind of allocate some funds. So you do the feasibility study, you get through the design phase, and eventually you do, the construction as you can afford it. So at this point, we're going to turn it over to our designer, who can walk you through some of the aspects of what it would take to get through a feasibility study and design something that you would like.
So I just want to interject, because we don't have that much more time. So how much more time do you think you need with the presentation?
I could make it pretty quick.
All right.
I could wrap it up in, we'll say, try to keep it under 7 or 8 minutes. Long story short, we're MW Studios. We're here, as Jerry and Tom said, with Nichols Contracting to talk about feasibility study for your all's possible new police station. And the big takeaway that both Tom and Jerry alluded to is Glenarden is about to embark on a project that, and it is somewhere in the neighborhood of $7.1 to $7.6 million. And it's our job at MW Studios as the architect to assist the town in selecting the correct pathway within that feasibility study process. So that feasibility study process, what that looks like, we examine both sites that we had just previously mentioned, and help paint that roadmap of what is going to go, what parts of the building are going to go on those different sites, and what exactly that looks like. So Jerry, if you don't mind, just kind of skimming through the presentation we had set up and just getting to what I like to call the meat and potatoes slide on slide 37, the questions this study will answer. And I'm sure if you guys were interested, Jerry or Tom can provide this presentation we had done for you all. It just gives a little bit of backstory about who we are and what our experience is. We are an architecture firm. We specialize in public safety architecture. We work from all over the country, as far away as Los Angeles County, and as close to you all as we're working with Cedric Haywood over in the Seat Pleasant Police Department right now as well. So public safety and law enforcement projects are our bread and butter. But all right, thank you, Jerry. So really what we're trying to drill down to is exactly what this bullet list says. The investment of a $7 million some odd dollar building is a big step for any municipality. But really, at the end of the day, before you put pen to paper, the feasibility study is supposed to articulate what is going to happen, or where should this police station be located? How can either the remodel option that Tom talked about or the new build option, what are the pros, cons, and how can it be developed on either one of those sites? What do the floor plans look like? So how is the police department going to function as a building? How can we develop graphical material that represents what this project is going to look like, so we can reach out to the community in a positive manner and direction? How long the project's going to take? And most importantly, in addition to what it's going to cost, how is this work going to prepare both law enforcement within Arden, for the next 40 to 50 years? So, those are the key topics that we're looking to cover here within this feasibility study. And it's just to make sure that the project team as a whole has a comprehensive roadmap and shared vision that everybody's on board with prior to proceeding into the larger financial obligations of both the blueprint, the design and engineering drawings of how you obtain a building permit, and then certainly the construction phase. We all want to make sure we're singing from the same sheet of music prior to those phases kicking off. All right, that's that kind of condensed down into a nutshell. And like I said, we did have a lot more detail prepared for you all, but I do know that sometimes these meetings can get run over time, so we don't want to overburden you all with any more additional information. But I'm sure Jerry can make this presentation available to you guys if that's something y'all are interested in.
Yes, we are very much interested in the presentation, and it'll give us opportunity to look over it, develop questions, and if we want to call you back to have maybe follow up to answering questions we have, and then move forward that way.
Definitely. And also feel free, I know that they're right down the street, but Cedric Haywood from, Seat Pleasant, they're going through a very similar process for what you all are about to or considering embarking on. So they're a great resource, and we'd, if given the chance, love to connect you guys, or if you don't already know each other, and just connect you guys and share some details.
You said who would see Pleasant?
Cedric Haywood, he's the acting chief of police currently.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, really, really good group of people over there. So,
all right. Well, appreciate it. Is there any questions from council members? Are there any questions from council members? All right, hearing none, I guess you could send this presentation to Mr. Simpson. Mr. Simpson? And Mr. Simpson can forward it to us. And like the other issue, we can have some time to look over it, ask any questions that we may have, and if we need you guys to come back, invite you guys back. If not, then make a decision on how we move forward. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is background checks. Councilman Herring?
Yeah, I wanted this on the agenda because I've been talking about this for a while. Background checks for the city. I noticed that a lot of times we are hiring a number of employees that may not have completed a complete background check. I don't know who's doing the background checks, but I actually feel, that we need to move the background checks. One, they need to be moved to HR, and two, they need to be done by an independent organization. And that's all background checks. I know when the previous city manager was here, I had mentioned to her about it, and there was a company that actually does, first responder background checks, police and first responder background checks, as well as regular background checks. And I think we need to look into that. I think we're bringing on people who really we should not have. We've invested a lot of resources into these people, and then they're gone because they're not getting through the background checks. And I think it's a waste of city resources and city money. So I'm just thinking we need to look into that. And again, everything really needs to be centralized in HR when it comes down to any HR related issue, including background checks, applications, anything that has to do with HR. there should be a central location for that information, and that should be with the HR person. So I think we need to look at that and consider that, looking into having that done.
Who does the background checks now?
I don't know who does background checks.
Okay.
I have no idea. I mean, I know once they were in-house, I don't know if they still are. I'm not sure. And one time they've been done. I'm not sure who does it.
I'm sorry, Councilwoman Guillaume, did you have?
I was going to, thank you, Council President. I was going to ask what you asked, which is who does our background checks now, but I see Chief Bright raise his hand, so I'm not sure if he might know, but.
Chief Bright.
Good evening. I don't know if Councilman Herring talking about the city employees, but the police department, we do our background checks. We have our lieutenant do it because it's a variety of things we go through. So as far as police background checks, that'll be done through the police department because I have to sign an application for certification through the training commission to certify and not perjure myself for hiring process. And as a part of the new general order and policy 1000, you all can take a look at that. And it defines everything about recruitment and selection when it comes to the police department, which is mandated. So HR won't be doing the police department's background check. The police department be doing the police background check. If you guys want to pay somebody to assist us with doing the background check, that's cool too. But I'll have to review everything and sign the application for certification if the officer is going to work for the city of Glenarden, and I'll have to sign my name to it and not to perjure myself. So, and that's the form from the training commission, which is also attached to this general order policy 1000. So I would urge you all to take a look at this before you make a decision. But at the end of the day, as far as the rest of the employees, I know at one point all the drug screenings came through the police department. And when we had the other city manager, she changed that. And that's something that wasn't brought to my attention until after the fact. And I think that brings, when we have a system like that, with when we don't know who's doing the drug screening and stuff, that gives an opportunity for people to get hired without a thorough background check. So that's all I have to say in reference to it.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. President, like I said, we need to look at getting an organization, independent organization to do background checks. There's a lot of companies out there that do police and first responder background checks. The police do not have to do the background checks. And that's another reason why I say we need to look at this general codes, because the general codes are what we want them to be, not what they tell us they want. Again, that's why the charter is quite clear when it says all general orders have to be approved by the city council. So it may not be something that we want in the general orders. We may not want that be in the general orders. There's other options. You're not going to sit and tell me that's the only way that background check can be done. Background checks need to be done. They need to be done. They need to be done by HR. And if they don't want them done by HR, then maybe they don't want to work here. I'm just, because I don't know any other place where HR is not well involved in employment hiring.
Well, HR is employed without.
One second. Point of order. 1 second, Chief. Councilman Herring has the floor.
I'm just saying that, again, it's something that we need to look into because, again, and I wasn't trying to throw anything out there, but there have been a number of police officers that were hired, Chief, that ended up getting let go. And we purchased equipment and everything else for them. And that was a lot of money. And so that's my problem. We're spending money on people that's getting let go, and it was a number of them, not one or two, it's more than two. So I was trying to keep it out there, but if you want to go ahead and just throw it out there, it is what it is. I'm just saying it is what it is. We need to look at what we need to do, what's best practice for the city of Glenarden. That's what we need to look at. And that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to continue to do. I'm going to continue to put that out there. All right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Chief, I'm sorry.
No problem. And like I said, about being transparent and stuff and make sure everything's done right. It's nothing I'm trying to hide. I'm always transparent because, like I said, at the end of the day, I'm the one that have to sign the application for certification for the officers. Yeah, we had some officers that had some background. They didn't give us all the information, and that's why we had reached out and we had an independent investigator look into doing background check for us. And which time the previous city manager didn't want the background investigator doing investigations for us and interfered with the background investigation and had me reach out to the training commission and to the deputy state's attorney in reference to background investigations. But by all means, if the city want to hire somebody to do background investigations, I have no problem with that. So I'm on the same page with everybody else, but I'm the one that signed the application for certification once they do the background investigation. So, and as it relates to HR is always involved in the process. And HR can't tell you that they're not involved in the process because they get all the information that pertains to them and what they need. So I don't know where that information is coming from, but and once again, my door is always open. If you got questions or concerns, you're always free. You can come down and see how we do the process. You want to come on a ride along and see how we police? I have no problem with that. We have an open door for all council members, citizens, and everybody else. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. In-house event gold room. Ms. Bunn sent out something to all council members, but I'll let her speak on it. And then if council members have questions, we can go from there. Ms. Bunn?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I sent out a couple of events that the Gold Room wanted to do some in-house, start doing in-house events to create revenue, and then also for marketing purposes in the year for next year. I sent the stuff out to get approval because we have to start marketing and get started with preparing for those events. Some of the events was a flower arrangement workshop, which will be held in May, a week before Mother's Day. My goal is to ideally market to different age groups, so our seniors, and then also our younger residents, and then others in different parts of PG County as well. We also thought about a bridal expo, which will be held in October. That will be a fall event, and then a 2-day event, which will include a vendor event for one of those days, and you will have we'll have a jazz and food and art gallery going on within the Gold Room. All of these events will actually, have a cost to it, and to also bring in revenue for the Gold Room.
Thank you, Ms. Bond. It's just one question, just the budgetary impacts. Are there any budgetary impacts? I think I may.
Say that one more time.
Budgetary impacts. There are no budgetary impacts?
No.
All right, thank you. All right, are there any oppositions to the events that are proposed, Councilmember Herring?
Yeah, when you say there's no budgetary impacts, don't we have to pay staff for those events?
Well, so the regular staff, you'll schedule them to be there. That will be their working scheduled day to be on site.
Okay, there will be budgetary impacts, so it will hit your budget. I was just saying, you said it was no budgetary impact. It actually is, because we got to pay salaries for any events that we have. and whether it's your van or somebody else's. So it is an actual budgetary impact. I mean, I don't have no problem with it. We actually had a golden coordinator before that actually did something like this. It didn't work too well because of the person that we brought in to do it. So maybe you'll have better luck. All right, thanks.
All right. Okay, well, if there are no objections, then Ms. Bond, you have the green light.
Thank you.
Last one is just a minor update. As you guys recall, I forgot the lady's name, but she came via the connection of Senator Benson to talk about the Enough grant that will help out Judge Sylvania Woods Elementary School. There was no there was no budgetary aspects on our end that were required. It was just to have someone, a representative of the city, to sit in on the advisory board to just, just give feedback on how the program is working, as targeting schools who have I think it's like 80% below the poverty line, and Judge Sylvania Woods Elementary qualifies for that. And so we have signed up for that. Signed up to partner with that grant. The grant has not been awarded yet, so we don't know if the grant will be awarded to and we'll participate in it. But once the award is made, then we'll be made aware. If the grant is not given, there's nothing for us to do. If the grant is given, then we can, reconvene and discuss how they'll look for the city to be involved with it. But with that, are there any questions?
Yeah, Mr. President.
Yes, sir. Councilman Harris.
You don't even remember. I remember the other woman that came up that was giving a presentation about something. I don't even remember this one. Could we have them send us some more information on it? I don't even feel like looking for it.
I can reach out and ask her to resend it. And we can go on from there.
She sent it before? I mean, did we get it before?
Yeah, she gave everybody a packet. She came and gave a presentation at the regular.
I thought that the woman was the charge that they wanted us to give her like so much money or something.
No. This is actually just they needed a government entity to partner with to help Judge Sylvania Woods to be eligible to receive the grant. And so there's no monetary requirement on our end. In fact, if the grant is awarded, then the city will get $400 a month. That it's very not much, but $400 a month for the time of whether it be a council member or whether it be the city manager to attend 2 meetings a month, I believe, or 1 meeting a month for 2 hours.
I don't understand. Okay, all right, yeah. If I can get that information, or either I'll look and see if I can find it. But yeah, if somebody can get their hands on it, that'd be good. I don't.
It was hard copy. So then I can try to reach out to her for a soft copy.
Okay, all right, thanks.
All right. Any other questions?
Hey, real quick, Chief Bryant. President, I think you're talking about, it might be the female Angela Jones, because she spoke to me at Senator Benjamin's 202 coalition meeting. I think you might be talking about her.
Very well, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Jones.
This isn't concerning the grant. This is concerning something else.
Okay, well, we were just about to adjourn to closed session, but if it's for open session, feel free.
I just wanted to ask the city manager, acting city manager Simpson, concerning the elevator, where are we? The presentation for the police station was nice. At least that's a start in the right direction. But as far as the elevator, where are we? I mean, we are committed to that. If that company is not available to give us information as to who they work with in the other in another government entity, maybe we should move on to, Otis Elevator or some other elevator company so we can get that off the ground.
Yes, good evening. I think we are close. The construction company that was referred is part of, I believe, also the Maryland State contract. I want to be able to verify that. Hopefully I'll have that information by the end of the week. But I do believe that we can piggyback off a contract that Corgenic, sometimes I mispronounce the name, so please forgive me, that we're able to piggyback on, and we should be able to proceed. I'm still waiting to get some other information confirmed. I'm told I should have that by this Thursday.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right, Councilwoman Guillaume.
Thank you, Council President. Before going into closed session, I just wanted to take the time to acknowledge the passing of the late, great former council woman. She was also a council president at one point, Deborah Eason. Wanted to make sure that while she is no longer with us physically, that the family knows that we, or at least I, let me just say I speak for myself, I really respect the legacy that she and her mother and the family has had in this beautiful city, and wanted to just acknowledge that all of the things that she has done for this amazing city as far as legislations or activities and events, doing the Christmas parties before I started doing the holiday parties with Council Vice President Ferguson and others. She really left a mark here and shoes that can't be filled. But I just wanted to acknowledge her presence and the impact that she had, and know that we are mourning along with the family. I am mourning along with the family. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just concur with that. I am mourning as well. It's tremendously saddened to hear about her passing. And just respect all the work that she's done for the city. I ran on a ticket with her in the last election cycle, and just really respect her and all the work she's done, and just the amazing life that she's lived. And so my sympathies to her family. And I believe that in honor of her, that the municipal building will be flying out flags at half staff to honor her and the work that she's done in the city and her life. Councilman Jones, is that a new hand?
Yes, sir, it is.
Yes.
Thank you, Council President. I also would like, I'm requesting a prayer for the Jordan family in the passing of a resident here in Ward 1 and the passing of Mr. Jordan. Would you keep the Jordan family in prayer? He passed last night, so I would appreciate it if we would keep them in prayer.
Yeah, definitely. And as well as Mr. Hampton, another staple in the community for so long. Sad to hear about his passing as well. So, just a sad time back to back. And Councilman Herring, I know there was a couple others. Mr. Herring, you want to go?
Yeah, I do want to talk because Mr. Wanzer on Fisk Avenue, he passed away also recently. Longtime resident, very active in the community. We've Glenarden has been hit hard. Been hit hard by a lot of long-time, residents. I've served with Deborah Easton on a number of councils, and she's always been, one thing you can say, she loved Glenarden. She loved Glenarden. That's one thing you can definitely count on her doing for the city. All right. All right, thank you. And thank you, little man.
All right, is there a Vice President Ferguson?
Yeah, I just wanted to say also keep the Edmonds family in prayer and the Smith family or the stop. I apologize. And
It's fine.
the Carol Gordon family. There's just been a lot of deaths. So just keep their family in prayer. And yeah, and definitely I will get back with the council. I did speak to Shirley, Deborah's sister. So she said she'll be giving us some information on the arrangements. This is hard for me too, because me and Deborah used to make mud pies, live across the street from each other. So this is very hard for me as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And I reached out to Councilman Maher, I think a great idea just about the rich history of the city of Glenarden. I know we had a Black History Month event last year, and this year, hopefully focusing on the rich Black history of the city of Glenarden and doing a program centered around that for Black History Month, and maybe incorporating just some of these individuals in that. But more to come on that, as I believe, I guess the same committee from last year will run it this year. I think it was myself, Mr. Herring, and Mr. Harris, Councilman Harrison. So, all right. With that being said, the council reserves the right to go into closed session during anytime during a public meeting. Pursuant to the annotated code of Maryland State Government Article Section 10-508A, the council by majority vote may retire to executive or closed session at any time during the meeting. Should the council retire to executive closed session, the chair will announce the reason and a report will be issued at a future meeting disclosing the reasons for such closed session. And for this, the purpose of this closed executive session is to discuss personnel. And as relates to the city manager and the council clerk position. With that, I propose or I motion that we go into closed session. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? And we'll go to a voice vote. Councilwoman Guillaume,
Yes.
Councilwoman Fareed,
Yes.
Councilman Hairston,
Yes.
Councilman Herring,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jones,
Yes.
Vice President Ferguson,
Yes.
and I am a yes. The vote carries. The open portion of this meeting is now closed for citizens. Thank you for attending. The next meeting is our public hearing on next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. All right, you guys have a great meeting. A great evening. And remember, please get out to vote. Polling stations open. If you haven't early voted, polling station open at 7 a.m. and close at 8 p.m. If you're in line at 8 p.m., then you can still vote. But if not, then you will be probably turned away. All right. Have a good night, everybody.